Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I wonder whether we can say that we live in a racist society. We've got the situation with Jason Arday. And let's just remind ourselves about Jason Arday from Cambridge. Some of the things that he got up to. He ran the 600 miles between London and Edinburgh in 6 days, even though it's 320 miles.
It was a return ticket.
3,000 people came and applauded him when he finished his... we got it wrong yesterday. It was 30 marathons in 35 days that he did, and unfortunately halfway through he injured his knee and it had blown up to twice the size of what it normally was.
Jimmy Hill.
There's actually photos of him completing it with a normal knee and 20 or 30 people there, many of whom are tourists, literally having their lunch. We know about Ohio State and the University of Glasgow saying that he wasn't really a visiting professor there. Also,
he didn't play for Crystal Palace, by the way. No.
Also, I've got another piece of amazing news. I mean, we talk about educational standards diminishing in this country. This man claimed not to have read...
That's here, that was. That was a picture of him here.
And so we're told that he wasn't able to read or write. And that is actually, that picture is
That's on our balcony.
Yeah. OK. Helpful for the radio people. We were told that he only learnt to read and write when he was 18. Well, in fact, unbelievably, he passed a GCSE in English when he was 16. So we talk about educational standards going down. We say that things are not going particularly well, but in fact, he was able to... He was able to pass a GCSE without, in fact, actually being able to read or write. But also, I think there is another thing with this sex offender, Levy, who time and time again was put out on police bail. Now, I don't know whether he was treated differently because he was black, but what I do know was that he was able to murder 2 women whilst he was out on bail for serious sexual assaults. Time and time again, he was let out. Time and time again, he was able to get away with more and more crime. And I just worry about this whole situation. You know what? The Metropolitan Police have said that all of the agencies involved will have to think about this and reflect upon it. Well, hang on a second. The police, the British Transport Police, the courts, the Crown Prosecution Service, all these great luminaries of protecting the public, none of them have protected the public properly, and this man was extremely, extremely dangerous. In fact, I'm looking at pictures on other channels of him being arrested. He used to go round on the London Underground attacking women. By the way, you've got to be very careful on the London Underground. I'll tell you what I saw one day. There was this bloke, and he was zooming in on a woman's crotch and taking photos and whatever. And I did stop him, but when I actually got to him, he's like altered the system on his phone, so he had a different operating system, and opened the photos, went, there's no photos here. So obviously he was completely organised.
Well, one thing I read, and I couldn't believe this, I just checked it again, he was bailed for murder. How do you get bailed for murder? On April 1st, Levy was arrested for Valencia Trujillo's murder. He was wearing superhero pyjamas. Anyway, he said maybe it could be mistaken identity, and he was bailed, and he actually went on to murder again. How can you get on bail when you're suspected of being a murderer? I don't understand
I didn't know it was possible, but we've got a really important story coming up. Oh, by the way, Jason Arday, I've watched some of his lectures online, and he said that there was a paltry number of black leaders. I would suggest the word is paltry, not poultry. Poultry is chicken, right? Anyway, Do you know something? We've had a long debate on this show for a long time about the situation in Gaza. Now, let's just set out our stall. I'm not a Zionist in any way, shape or form. I don't believe that, as an example, France should be abolished if you disagree with the French government. As far as I'm concerned, everybody has the right to self-determination, including the Jews, and I don't believe that makes me in any way special or different to anybody else.
But that means you are a Zionist if you think
no, because I don't think there should be. And I'm not saying I've got an special interest in the subject.
No.
I'm saying that that everyone has the right to self-determination. Perhaps I'm splitting hairs. But anyway, let me just say this. I think that the Hamas government in Gaza has been terrible. I don't care what people turn around and say. If you look at the fact that they've stolen aid, people in Gaza get more aid than anywhere else on earth. If you look at the way that they've killed journalists, if you look at the way they've destroyed independent media, if you look at the way that they've dominated universities and stopped genuine and rigorous academic research, if you look at the way that they've thrown political opponents off buildings, they won the election when they killed all their opponents. I mean, you know, and what? I mean, even I could win an election under those circumstances. But actually, then you've got the IDF coming in, trying to free Gaza from Hamas. Now, I understand that the Germans didn't believe they were being freed from the Nazis. I understand that. But nonetheless, they were being freed, and I think the people of Gaza were being freed. And, of course, Hamas used children as human shields so they could go viral, blaming the IDF for all sorts of murders. That is my introduction, but we've got a brilliant guest now, who is Jonathan Sasciadotti. Sasciadotti! Jonathan Sasciadotti, I apologise for being unable to pronounce your name, but you've got some very, very interesting research into malnutrition in the Middle East. Can you explain a little bit about it?
So you'll remember that there was an awful lot of reporting in the UK media, in fact around the world, that Israel was intentionally starving children in the Gaza Strip, that the failure of aid to make it into the Strip during the war was creating a malnutrition problem, all sorts of things like that. But the UN's own latest Gaza nutrition survey has actually blown all that apart, that whole famine narrative. Acute malnutrition among under fives was just 0.2 to 0.8%, according to that UN report. And their own conclusion is that there is no widespread acute malnutrition at population level, according to their nutrition cluster presentation.
Hold on, what's happened to the UN? They're normally on Hamas's side. What's happened? Have they had a spiritual awakening? What's going on with the UN there?
Well, rest assured, it's all right because nobody's reported on it, except perhaps for this channel. I mean, I've searched specifically for coverage of that 22nd of July report, that Gaza Smart Nutrition Survey, including that 0.2 to 0.8% finding across the BBC, across The Guardian, across The Times, The Telegraph, The Independent. I haven't found it yet. Maybe I've missed it, but it's funny because they all went, you know, massive on this supposed deliberate intention of Israel to try and starve children.
Well, we knew it was bunkum now, didn't we?
Bloodthirsty Jew a narrative that they were all very keen to push out there. But now that the UN, which is no friend of Israel, has actually blasted this as false, there's virtually no reporting.
But Jonathan, there's two elements to this, isn't there? Because I think so. Let me just go back a step. I think there was certainly a concern at the time that aid was not getting to the people that needed it the most, i.e. if aid was getting into Gaza, it was being misappropriated by Hamas. Now, what's quite interesting is it looks like whatever the Israelis did at the border actually did manage to ensure that the aid got to the right people, because obviously they were holding it up to avoid it being stolen. Now, I appreciate that what you're hearing here is a very different narrative to what you hear elsewhere, but the reality is the Israelis were deeply concerned about the fact that the aid was being misappropriated. Do we know any details about that operation? Because it seems, by the looks of these figures, to have been a success. And I make the point that Gaza has the same child malnutrition rate as Lebanon, which is a relatively stable and peaceful country.
Well, listen, not just Lebanon. So the same UN study actually said that Gaza's figures are lower than the neighbouring countries of Egypt, which has 2.9%, Jordan 2%, Syria over 12%. Even Bulgaria, by the way, is at 4%. So Gaza actually, compared to those, is doing all right. And the famine threshold is actually 30% acute malnutrition by this same measure. So the Gaza measurements of 0.2 to 0.8%, less than 1%, is a tiny fraction of that threshold. And actually, what's also interesting is that before the war that was started when the Palestinians in Gaza burst into and invaded Israel, before then it was 0.8. So actually, it could be lower than malnutrition level.
But is it? But I mean, look, if we don't know the answer to this yet, that's fine. But do we know any details of how we were able to get the aid to people, despite the fact that, that Hamas were trying to intercept it?
Well, I can't tell you definitively, but, you know, I've actually been inside the Gaza Strip after the war started. I've been in the aid areas where they have taken the aid in from Israel, where it's been collected, where it's been checked, and then it's there to be distributed. So I know that there were extensive efforts to distribute aid both into the Gaza Strip and then from there. And the Americans set up a whole process and organisation to take that over from the previous NGOs, which actually were all being hijacked and run by...
Well, UNRWA work hand in glove with Hamas, and they were preventing the aid getting there.
Indeed. So what I would say is this, bearing in mind that there were those very emotive images which made, you know, front pages even of some of the British papers and also in the States of children supposedly showing signs of malnutrition. But there were very few of those photos, and actually many of them were also revealed to have been in some way deceptive. They were either children who had pre-existing medical conditions, so tragically were malnourished, but not as a result of some kind of mass-scale malnutrition as a result of not letting in aid.
One of the big problems that we've had in the age of social media is that it's anecdotal evidence, isn't it? So, as an example, if you see a photo of one child who has been injured in a bombing, that is very bad. But remember, it is only one child, and it's not necessarily symptomatic of the experience of everybody else. And so what we saw quite a lot in Gaza was, you know, something where the evidence just wasn't there of a mass problem of starvation. So one child might be malnourished. And, of course, that is a tragedy if one child is malnourished. And we don't want 1% of children to be malnourished. We certainly don't want 12.5% like in Syria. But fundamentally, it's not symptomatic of the 99% of children in the Gaza Strip. And so what frustrates me and what worries me is a lot of British people saw a great deal on TikTok of this sort of evidence that didn't really prove what was going on. And because they are watching a picture of one child malnourished and they're then being told that every child is malnourished, they have a tendency, as you can imagine, to believe it. And that has been a problem, not just for Israel, but I think for Britain and for our own stability.
Well, let me say as well that it's not just people reading the paper. You know, on the 30th of June, Yvette Cooper described Gaza's situation as desperate and announced another £23 million of our taxpayers' money for UNRWA, which actually isn't even operating to give out aid in the Gaza Strip. And the contrast is actually extraordinary, because while politicians and campaigners were talking about severe starvation, the UN nutrition system was actually producing physical measurements which showed extremely low acute malnutrition. And as you're saying, the issue isn't whether life in Gaza is difficult for people, because it is difficult as a result of the war that they started. It's a question of whether or not the repeated claim of widespread starvation and famine is valid. And the UN's own measured data now cuts directly against that claim, and our government needs to apologise.
But Jonathan, it goes even further than that, because what it says is that when Israel was sat at the border, holding up trucks, refusing to hand aid over to certain people, that process was actually successfully feeding. I know it sounds counterintuitive. That process was successfully feeding the people of Gaza, because what they were saying constantly is, we will not allow this aid truck to go to these people because it will be misappropriated. Now, of course, Greta Thunberg and others are sort of complaining about all of this, but these malnutrition figures, which are independent because they're from the UN, suggest that process of refusing to hand hand over the aid to the wrong people actually is what prevented the famine. And so...
The supermarkets were open, the restaurants and takeaways were open. I've never known any place that has a famine to have supermarkets full of produce on the shelves and takeaways and restaurants open.
Well, I think you're both of you pointing to very important points, and the difficulty was that there wasn't a lot of clear information necessarily coming out of the Gaza Strip, but certainly the Israelis and the Americans were very clear throughout the period of war in the Gaza Strip that they were trying to get humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip and, as you say, distributed to the people that actually needed it, rather than controlled by Hamas and the other terrorist groups, both as a method of control of their own population and also to manipulate international media to try to create, very successfully as it happens, this reputation that Israel was somehow deliberately starving children. But the UN, this is the important point, has now, as you said, debunked that with this actual study, which has used actual measurements.
The huge concern had to be this. If you are being shelled, if you are being shot at, and you have a bunker system that is larger and more extensive than the London Underground, and you do not allow civilians to go into it, then you are not the sort of person who can be trusted to distribute aid, because you are somebody who already, in terms of its civilian infrastructure, i.e. a bunker, are denying it. You're going to deny them the aid as well. And I think there was a genuine risk that aid would have prolonged the conflict, which is certainly bad for the public, because I think there's one thing that we have to make clear right here, right now. It has been awful for the people of Gaza, and nobody would want them to suffer in this way. My concern is that we're just going to go back to our old ways, which is handing over... You know what? I don't even believe Hamas is a religious organisation. I just think they're a bunch of thieves who like prostitutes in Qatar, and therefore your aid money is going to pay for another private jet flight to Las Vegas.
Well, let me say, it doesn't have to be one or the other. Hamas is a local chapter of the Muslim Brotherhood and does have, an Islamic foundation in its documentation and its attitudes and indeed in the way that it carried out its terror attacks over the years. But I will say as well that you're quite right to point out that Hamas and wider Palestinian culture and politics have used the very things that are meant to be there for betterment of life of people in the Gaza Strip, for example, concrete or food, instead of using them all those years, not just during the war, to actually improve people's lives there. They used the concrete to build tunnels, which, as you say, they used the people to shelter the tunnels. They didn't use the tunnels to shelter the people. They used the food to starve the people or to manipulate them by charging them massively inflated prices.
I have to say that there is a special moral bankruptcy to putting the entrance to a bunker tunnel in a hospital and not letting the patients into it, but instead lining up a group of 5-year-olds to stand at the entrance to that tunnel so that when the IDF attempt to storm it, the children will be killed in the crossfire.
But Andre, this is all entirely consistent with what has happened for many, many decades, both from Palestinian Islamic Jihad, from Hamas, even from Fatah. They are, I'm sorry to say it, but generally speaking, it is a culture which places the importance of, martyrdom over the importance of the survival of the individual and the betterment of the lives of the Palestinian people. So when Israel is forced to engage in a war, a response to that bloodthirsty, barbaric day on October the 7th, and many decades before, when the Palestinians launched rockets and all sorts of other devices. I mean, when I said they used concrete and food, they even used condoms in the past. Condoms that they had in the Gaza Strip, they would fill them with gas so that they would float in the sky and they could send incendiary balloons into Israel.
Well, they took up all the sewage pipes, so it was like there was flies everywhere to use to make missiles. So there was all, feces and disgusting stuff all floating around. But this is what they're saying. All the hospitals in the main were used as military bases because they thought it offered them some sort of protection. And then if they did get it, they could use it as an excuse. But with this thing with the United Nations, and it is quite unusual for them to, be honest, is there a turning point now with the UN and maybe other organisations that have not played a fair wicket?
Well, I'm not holding my breath, and I sincerely doubt it. You know, the United Nations is a very biased body against the State of Israel. Unfortunately, it's victim to a lot of sort of tribal behaviour and voting blocs. And remember that many of the nations in the United Nations are not democracies. They're not aligned with the West. They're certainly not aligned with Israel. Israel, this is the irony or perhaps the tragedy of all of this, that actually wars are pretty horrible. And what's been going on in the Gaza Strip is undoubtedly horrible as a result of what happened on October the 7th, and as I said, for decades before. But Israel and the IDF do generally make enormous efforts to try to preserve the humanitarian conditions for those caught up in the war, and that has never been reflected in the reporting. Instead, it's been all these lies and these calumnies about deliberate starvation, which even the UN has now been forced to reveal is not true.
The big problem is we're in a situation where the world has so little understanding about what's going on that they think that leaving Gaza under Hamas is a legitimate and sensible thing to do. I mean, let's just remind ourselves, the reason why they attacked the kibbutz that were interested in peace first, the reason they were especially proud of the Nova Festival, is because there was a real danger of peace in the Middle East, and Hamas were deeply, deeply concerned about peace in the Middle East. It is absolutely their strategy for there to be no peace in the Middle East, and therefore, I mean, they filmed murdering Jewish people in the kibbutz in order to force a response.
And it's vital to, again, reflect, as you are doing there, the bigger picture, which is that, generally speaking, where there is a prospect for Israel to make peace with its Arab neighbours, it does so, and it even makes quite considerable sacrifices to do so. It's given up more land than it currently holds in order to make peace in the past. But when it comes to the Palestinians, I'm afraid to say that year over year, decade over decade, for 100 years or so, the aim has not been on their part to create a Palestinian state alongside a Jewish-Israeli state. It has really been to stop there being a Jewish-Israeli state, and that's something which obviously the Jewish-Israeli state will not tolerate. So the idea of this kind of two-state delusion, this two-state fantasy, certainly now has been set back decades. It's not something that anyone can really entertain, especially not with Hamas still refusing to properly disarm in the Gaza Strip according to the agreement they made with Donald Trump, especially not with Hamas still in power there. Even if they get to hold light weapons, it will keep their stranglehold over the people in Gaza. And the people in Gaza have been educated and radicalised for generations, so that most of them actually still agree with Hamas.
Well, from birth now. Anyway, look, Jonathan, you're going to stay with us. We've got to take a little break, and we're going to talk about now how you've been reported to the police for someone challenging you at your door. We'll talk about that. Jonathan Sashadossi, journalist and broadcaster, with us, and we'll be back with him after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, OK, we are still with Jonathan Sasha-Dotti, and actually, you noticed that he'd been reported to the police.
You've been reported to the police, haven't you? And when I heard you had basically a Green candidate at your door, you told them not to come anymore, and they came back, and then they reported you. What did they say you said? Because I remember reading it saying he would not say something like that.
Yeah, so what happened was it was before the local elections, and a Green candidate came canvassing to my house. I did tell them in uncertain terms that I didn't want them coming to my house, that as a Jewish person, I found their position on anti-Semitism and their positions on Israel, particularly from their leader and deputy leader and others in the party, to be utterly reprehensible, and they certainly weren't welcome here. So they should have taken note of that and not campaigned at my house. But sometime later, a second person came to the house, and I did get quite angry, as I felt rather threatened and intimidated by the fact that they were basically targeting me after I'd asked them not to. Now, we did have a conversation. It continued onto the street. I don't deny that. But it was, again, I was particularly upset when I asked about anti-Semitism. This woman who came to the house told me that actually they didn't have a problem with Jews. She didn't have a problem with Jews. She had many friends who were anti-Zionist Jews, she said, in reference to anti-Semitism.
She knows all four of them.
Well, that's it. I mean, I asked if like her party leader, she thought that Jews were actually just concerned about the perception of anti-Semitism. If you remember, that's something that Zach Polanski had said rather than the reality of it. If she believed that the firebombing of ambulances, or if she believed stabbing of Jews, or even the killing of Jews in a synagogue in Manchester on Yom Kippur, if these things were just a perception. And she told me that if Israel weren't killing children, then maybe there would be fewer of these incidents here in the UK. And of course, again, that really upset me and angered me. And so the conversation was a difficult one.
Because that's exactly the same as saying Stephen Lawrence wouldn't have been murdered if it hadn't been for the fact that there's violence in Nigeria.
Well, indeed. Look, it's an imbecilic argument, and a particularly inflammatory and nasty thing to say to a Jew who's told you on his doorstep when you're not welcome there that he's very concerned about rising anti-Semitism in the UK and in his local area, which you're meant to be campaigning for a political party for, not about Israel or Gaza or any of the other peculiar warped views that you might have. But as a result of all this, I was very shaken by that. We went our separate ways eventually from the street. But then weeks later, after the Greens won in my area, I get this knock at the door. This plainclothed policewoman tells me that she'd better come in case the neighbours saw, and then started to tell me that it had been alleged that I had harassed the campaigner who'd come to my house. Of course, I had not harassed anyone. Under the law anyway, harassment requires two incidences with the same person.
That's correct.
But regardless of that, I felt harassed. These people had come to my house when they weren't welcome. The policewoman told me they knew who I was. They knew that I'm a Jewish journalist. This terrified me, that they're keeping research and records on me when I've asked them not even to come here. And to then say that I harassed them. And apparently the first one had told the police that I had called her terrorist scum, which I certainly had not done.
Oh, I would have.
It's just not something you would
They're
say.
not words that I use.
Oh,
I
I
would not have called.
in that
would
case,
not
get
have
him off.
called this
You'd
woman
have much
terrorist
better.
scum. I have no evidence that she's a terrorist or scum.
She probably, she probably is. Most probably
I certainly disapprove of the Green Party and its positions. Even it appears sometimes some of them have sympathy for terrorism and terrorists, but I did not say any of that, and so I felt that this allegation was outrageous.
I think you should apologise to viewers and listeners for not calling her terrorist scum.
Well, Andre, you say that, but indeed the police told me that maybe I could write a letter of regret to the woman who had accused me of harassment, but that's something that I
Do you think you've been logged in a non-crime thing? You think you've been logged? You can't actually find out. But
well,
they've got
thanks to the Free Speech Union who paid for my lawyer, I can actually tell you that it went away. The police then decided they weren't inviting me in for the voluntary conversation and interview that they had initially asked me to attend in a police station, because I was reluctant to do that. I was reluctant to write this letter of regret. It's a bit like nursery school, having the police trying to mitigate a political conversation somebody who comes to your door to sell you a political party and its positions and is then robustly questioned by a potential voter about some of those more outrageous positions, and then to say that that is harassment and to demand a letter of regret, I think is an outrageous abuse, especially when they just want power. They were abusing the police by trying to intimidate a Jewish journalist.
Well, they're doing the harassment. They've got form on this. They did it in Sussex, didn't they? They did it in Brighton. They were going round doors, door to door, and going, do you support boycotts of Israeli goods? And if you said no, they were like, your name will go on the list. They were going round door to door and doing this sort of intimidating tactics. Do you think this is a thing they're doing now, and this is why they started on you?
Oh, sure.
I can't know what was behind this, but all I can know is how I felt when this happened, and I certainly felt that this was a form of intimidation and harassment. And when I was told by the police that they were aware that I'm a journalist and that I'm Jewish and who I was definitely worried about the idea that this may be not even quite as innocent as they were making it out.
What they are brilliant at is hoodwinking stupid police. If a lot of police, whilst very well-meaning and not of very high intelligence, they're average people. Nothing wrong with being an average person, by the way. And these people are very good at lying to them in a way that ticks every box.
Like Professor R.Day getting the police to question and cause that Times journalist on harassment on another similar story where the police are being misused.
Regardless of the intelligence levels of individual police, and I wouldn't like to comment on that, I would say that they do have a responsibility to at least do things by the law. And the Crown Prosecution Service had apparently told them, they told my lawyer, that there was literally no evidence for any of this. So the idea that they came round here with no evidence, it was really some sort of fishing expedition to try to get me to say something that would provide them with evidence, I think. And I will say that when the policewoman eventually called me to tell me that they were not going to pursue this, that the case was being closed with no further action, her words were that there was literally no evidence that the allegations happened.
Do you know what I'd have done, Jonathan? I'd have called her a terrorist as well.
Couldn't you have taken legal action against the police with the Free Speech Union?
No, because he hasn't been harassed. But it is interesting.
He looks a bit harassed. A little bit.
Well, I have requested from the police that I would like access to all the information stored on me, because this is a right that you do have, and I've made that application. Exactly. So I have applied to get as much information as I can out of them for this, because it seems to me that there is a certain amount of stuff going on here that it has not been revealed necessarily to me, and I didn't really appreciate the way this unfolded. As I said, I don't want to make too big a deal of it. I did have an argument with this woman. I did question the political positions of the Green Party. I'm not pretending otherwise, but I think that that is a perfectly legitimate thing to do. I didn't walk up to a stranger in the street to do it. They came to my home when they knew I didn't want them to come here, and I engaged in conversation about their policies. They were campaigning for my vote. So I think all of that is not just valid, I think it's normal behaviour.
But the critical point is that as far as the police are concerned, if you express views that are in line with a mainstream Jewish view, that ought to be questioned by public authorities with a view to prosecution. That is the view of the police officer. That's why I'd have called the police officer who came to my door a terrorist as well.
Well, and I don't know whether to feel sorry for the police or not, because certainly they were aware that there was no evidence. Certainly they were aware that the CPS had apparently advised them that there was lack of evidence. They were aware, they told my lawyer, that there was a potential freedom of speech issue here, especially because I'm a journalist, and the Green Party people had told them they were aware of that. So they seemed aware of a lot of stuff. Maybe they felt caught in the middle, I don't know. But all I can tell you is, from my experience, caught in
the middle means they need to say, stop wasting police time or we will arrest you for wasting police time. Here's what they wanted. They wanted you to come in, apologise, then they'd give you a caution for harassment in order to placate both sides. Don't worry, Jonathan, you're not going to court. You won't have to spend 20 grand. Just accept a caution. You'll have a criminal record, but there's no punishment there. That's what they would have done. What they should have done was arrested the Green Party for wasting police time, which is also a crime and a more serious one than harassment.
The course of justice, possibly.
Well, look, I don't want to to pursue, I think, that course of action. All I will say is this: I've called the police a few times in my life to come to my house when there have been crimes going on. Someone broke into my car just right outside the window. I was here. I called them as it happened. They refused to send anyone. They told me it's not life or death. I've been in the local mini supermarket at the end of my road when the regular shoplifters who come several times a week were lifting all the bottles, threatened the staff with one of the bottles, threatened to strike them. I called the police while that was happening. They've never turned up for that. So the police have come in my life once or twice when I've needed them. There have certainly been a number of occasions when they haven't. And in this instance, they turned up with literally no evidence when somebody alleged something had happened, that I'd harassed them. I did not harass anyone. I engaged in what I considered to be robust and legitimate political discussion with somebody who had come round to try and sell a political party to me.
You can't harass somebody who's knocked on your door. I mean, that's plainly ludicrous. It's interesting, though. I mean, I wouldn't recommend you do this, but there was a guy a few years ago, I think he got into a little bit of trouble for it, which is why I wouldn't recommend you do it. He phoned up the police to say that his garage was being broken into. It might have actually been his shed. Shed being broken into, his bikes were being nicked. Now, what the police will do, idiotically, is they'll go, well, that's just a minor crime. Yeah, but there's not 50,000 different people all stealing one bike a year, right? There's 1,000 people stealing 50, right? Therefore, it's much more serious than you think. But anyway, what he said was, they said, we can't send anyone. He phoned them back 5 minutes later and said, don't worry, I've shot them. And there were 8 police cars and a helicopter within 5 minutes. No police available.
But he didn't actually.
Of course he hadn't. Of course he hadn't.
No. That happened with James Whale once. He got his bow and arrow out, and they did come very quickly. But anyway, that is it was self-defence. Anyway, thanks, Jonathan Sashadotti. We'll keep in touch with him and see if there are any follow-ups. So that's journalist and broadcaster Jonathan Sashadotti. But next, we're going to talk to young Bob. How long's he going to be, young Bob? He must be adult Bob soon, and we'll see about whether he's had any fisticuffs lately. He's probably had a couple on average since then, so we'll be with young Bob. If you want to give us a ring, 0344 499 100. Andre Nash, young Bob, next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right. We're not going to give away any personal details, but we're joined by young Bob now. And I was thinking, young Bob, now you don't want to give any details away, but you are an identical twin. So your brother must get a large number of people walking up to him, like either being positive or negative. And I could just imagine he's just a normal bloke who's not interested in politics, but has your face.
Yeah. Well, as normal as he can be, being Bob's twin brother.
So it was like, well, because we've just turned 18, he started.
Oh, you're not young Bob anymore. You're adult Bob.
Technically.
Yeah.
Going to the pubs more is quite interesting, especially in my local town, where people know me from like secondary school and stuff. Everyone wants to gossip on me, and everyone who doesn't know me that are local also are fans. And then, like, sometimes he just acts like me because it's more convenient. But, you know, when it comes to work or commuting, sometimes people have gone and threatened him because I don't live in one of the nicest areas of Britain. So it's quite unfortunate, even now, when I'm walking on the streets, sometimes I get recognised for the wrong reasons.
Can I ask you
They think you sold them a dodgy burger sometimes.
Yeah. Maybe.
Can I ask you something? I've got a friend of mine who told me that twins have a particular piece of fraudulent behaviour that they undertake, which is 1 gym membership, 2 people.
No, I pay for my own gym membership.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, but your brother doesn't. He just buys your card.
Because I've been told that there are a number of, like, there's this bloke who goes to Virgin Active in Wandsworth twice a day. And sometimes he's only been away for an hour when he comes back, and they're convinced there's 2 of him.
Yeah, I think that also as well, we look different. Like, you can tell that we're obviously identical twins, but he looks obviously more different. There's been occasions where sometimes he's tagged along and some of the events off camera, but people have been able to catch him in shot. And people are like, why is there a clone of you in the back? But, yeah, you know.
He just says he's partying on the other side and stuff like that.
Did you do that, the opposite?
Did they dress you up in the same clothes when you were younger?
Well, it was very difficult for when I was a baby, like, telling the difference. So sometimes we have to wear a tag or obviously individuate ourselves some clothes and stuff.
How do you know that you are Tom?
That's a good question. I feel like that's a philosophical question that's going to take. Like,
do you have a telepathic link?
No,
because I know a lot of identical twins, and they do have a sort of.
Because by the age of like 3, mums can tell you apart completely. But it may well be that you're not Tom. Have you considered that?
Yeah, I've never considered that, and no one's actually ever phrased a question like that before. So
you are yin and yang, but I mean,
in a sense, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I know, you know, Matt and Luke Goss, and I knew Keith Chegwin and his identical twin brother. And there is, he's Jeff Chegwin, yeah. I knew him quite well.
There were 2 Cheggers.
Yeah, there's 2. And there is a telepathic link. And do you ever, if your brother was sometimes injured himself, do you ever have picked?
Can't say I've ever experienced that.
No, you've ruined it.
Yeah.
You've ruined that. Anyway, what's going on in your life, Bob? Last time I saw you on video, you were horrendously attacked. Has that been resolved? There's no court cases going on. Can we talk about that, or is it on?
Yeah, so I think they emailed me a few days ago, and I have to get back to them about just sending in more information about it.
So it's ongoing, right?
Yeah, it's ongoing. The court case is probably going to be in years, so, like,
so
I'm not
have you been?
optimistic.
Is that the last attack? Because that's quite a long time ago for you getting attacked.
That's a good one. I need to catalogue these. I think it has, yes.
Oh,
because we have had to invest into some more security. So it's a logistical nightmare. Like, we were in Bristol.
Do you get Fred with you, Fred the bodyguard?
Yeah, we get him quite a lot, especially up north. And also, we had a security, I think, of 5 men when we were at Bristol last week doing a stand on deportations.
Yeah. And that's good. You've got that sorted now.
I mean, obviously, we've strongly encouraged you to get security because we were worried about you. Don't know you apart from through this, but still.
What do you mean we go back? We knew him when he was a child.
No,
Don't say that.
that wasn't him. That was the other one.
Oh, yeah.
That was his brother.
But, you know, how dangerous is it to talk about politics on the street these days? Because that's what worries me.
I would say it's fairly dangerous, depending on where you go. So I would say there's sort of 2 areas in which it might be quite scary to. Areas that have seen ongoing demographic change, so areas with, you know, a strong sense of, like, religion. So, for example, I can go to Tower Hamlets and talk about Islam critically. And then, you know, student hub areas, you know, like Bristol or Brighton, right? If I'm a right-wing student, I'd probably be chased off campus. And in fact, when we last went to the University of Bristol, which we're intending to go back to during Freshers' Week, my banners got stolen, people were assaulting me, someone threw a curry at me, which I think is quite ironic. So there are some areas which is incredibly scary to actually just talk about your worldview.
Yeah, you're a brave guy, yeah.
It's amazing, though, and amazingly sad that we see generally around the world university students fighting for freedom. Very often, many revolutions that take place against dictatorial regimes are led by students. And in this country, students are determined to limit free speech and to impede democracy. They seem to be the only ones.
Yeah, it's like the saying, if you do not meet truth with power, power will overcome truth. And you see this constantly with dictatorships. If you don't challenge them, if you don't allow truth within the space of your knowledge, then, of course, this is going to prevail. But, you know, I think it's going to be really interesting because we're seeing a pattern of different influencers and pundits going out and in public do stands like myself. So I think there should be a real space and oxygen for a revolution. with university campuses come
Well, we're
September.
seeing it now with this Professor R, or Unprofessor R Day. The DEI is falling apart before our eyes, and he's one who gave ridiculous examples of, doing all these marathons, and professional footballer for Crystal Palace was in a coma for like a week after a car. Loads of crazy stories, but how many of them have got through who aren't so ridiculous, who are now who've slipped through the net and are now professors and are just being patronised by the higher-up people who go, oh, he's wonderful, and really they're just DEI hires, and it's happening in all industries and in
well, this is why we want to appeal the Equalities Act, because it actually allows for these form of DEI hires. I've seen university positions exclusively made for certain demographics of people,
which is racist.
To reverse racism, and encourages people to hire people who are obviously less talented. Now, even beyond those DEI measures and schemes they have, like the university courses themselves are incredibly ridiculous, that you can be considered a professor or an educator at a university and, teach some ridiculous stuff, especially in the humanities.
In the humanities things, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, will the Premier League ever say that applications are particularly welcome from white people because there's an over-representation of black people in the Premier League? Now, I personally think that is... It's not what's made Premier League the best in the world. What's made the Premier League the best in the world is a commitment to footballing and the standard of footballing.
It's a meritocracy.
Where you don't care what's. But you could say that there is an over-representation of black people and under-representation of Chinese people, and we could now just fill Manchester City with Chinese players.
That shows the ridiculous of it, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, well, that's the main argument.
That would be the same thing.
Of a meritocracy, right? Like, it's inconsistently applied. It's all nice and virtuous in some sectors.
Where's all the female bin men?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose the other thing is we could start saying that that we need to, whites only to become doctors and nurses, because there is an over-representation of Asian people, and indeed in the nursing profession, people from the Caribbean. I find the whole thing ridiculous, because at the centre of it, young Bob, what they're saying is, because the king is white, and we can talk about this in a moment, because the king is white, somebody in the council estate doesn't deserve to get a job.
Yeah, well, that's the form of wokery that people like myself want to tackle, right? The sort of white guilt, ancestral guilt, that we have to sort of reverse that. And it ends into an infinite regress of, well, OK, so we've done something bad historically. That's a contested fact.
Well, it's not a we, though, is it? Yeah. Most of the poor British people weren't doing anything. There were serfs on the land.
Exactly. So, this, stereotype of British man did something bad historically, therefore we can enact a bad against you. But then, historically, a government can then say, well, these people enacted a bad thing on us, so we can just, go through the cycle over and over and over
again. They never talk about that we got rid of slavery.
Now you're 18, you can monetise your channel, can't you?
Yeah.
You'll be poor no longer.
Yeah, well...
you can buy the drinks, get the drinks in, can't you?
I'm not big for getting drunk and drinking. I've
you
discovered
don't have to. We did last night, actually. We had a beer tasting. He brought some of his brewery stuff in. Yeah, anyway, look, young Bob's here. If you want to speak to Bob, and no threatening him, 0344 499
That is the worst joke I've ever seen.
If he had 9 brothers, he would be known as 10 Bob. It's Talk with Andre Nash and Young Bob, and you too, 0344 499 1000. You give us a ring or send us a voice message on WhatsApp if you're scared. Back in a minute.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I'm so sorry. I don't. Why were we looking at Michael Fabricant's wig? Because you were telling me.
That's not a wig. That's
you were
his
saying
real
about
hair.
Tony Blackburn's wig.
That's his real hair. It's all their real hair.
Oh, come on. Come on.
Don't let the cat out the bag.
Michael Fabricant has got 3 wigs, short, medium and long.
Don't tell everyone they didn't realise.
Unbelievable.
Forget what he just said.
Unbelievable. Right, young Bob, we've been asked to ask you this question.
Go on.
Rupert Lowe refuses to say if the king is a white Briton. Do we care? And B, what's the story?
Okay, so I feel like with the BBC, more generally with the right, they ask dishonest questions. So he was answering indirectly the actual substance of the point, which is one of the key 5 points that Rupert Lowe gave out to Reform UK on potentially having a pact where they would closely cooperate, one of them being demographic security.
Yes.
Because Restore are now, transforming their policy platform on talking about demographic change, on how the white British are set to be a minority by 2060. So when talking about that, because some statistics have this methodology that white Britishness is established by both parents being white and British, it does mean we come to some conundrums, including the king not technically under those studies being considered white British.
Oh, OK.
Now, that's the stupidity, because it just assumes one particular methodology within the study.
Well, he's German anyway and Scottish.
No. It wouldn't be
British.
that. Based purely on that,
Yeah.
it would say that mum is British and dad is Greek.
Greek, yeah.
Yeah. And the study that is used to assert that the white British population is set to be, or one of the studies, looks at the definition of white British being from both the mother and the father. Now, of course, we know that's not true because you can be mixed race, you can have...
Well, my mum and dad
yeah.
were both British, born here, but Jewish. Is that British then?
Well, that is where really we're having this sort of identity politics debate, almost like on the left when it comes to the trans discussion. And I think that to a large degree, I think it's hyper-focused. I think that the recent hit pieces by Restore Britain, for example, have been absolutely scandalous. They've taken very public tweets that were from a few months ago, and they've almost archived them to use them now at a point where Restore Britain have actually offered an olive branch to reform. So this is very obviously...
It was an odd olive branch, though, in public with that funny music and saying you've got... You know, if it was a proper olive branch, it would have been behind the scenes. Wouldn't Rupert Lowe have called Nigel Farage?
I would say that if we're going to run off a platform of being anti-establishment, doing things like this publicly is quite healthy. I think also as well the way that Rupert has been able to create a leverage through Restore being a national political party, then ensuring that reform does actually focus on the right-wing things that we want to see within the right-wing party.
Can you tell us about Charlie Downs' front page of today's Times? I think it was. We like Charlie. We think he's a good bloke. Well, it said that he'd said that reform had been taken over by the Jews. I can't believe that that's correct. What do you know anything about this?
Yeah. So this refers to Nigel Farage making a video or tweet, sorry, I forget which one it is, talking about how he can't be bought out, right? Now, that was obviously in response to the scandal surrounding the £5 million donation that was undeclared at the time, and obviously that's an ongoing scandal. In response, he made a tweet just with an image with him at a conference, which I believe is like the Jewish Alliance for Reform.
Sure. And
that has been interpreted as an alleged anti-Semitic trope.
Oh, I see.
Now, the issue I have with this post, or rather the article and the spin that the legacy media has run with it, is that this was a very public post. In fact, your colleague Alex Phillips actually had that post pinned on her social media for months now, which obviously means that this is very public and that they've archived this for a time that it might be useful to attack Restore.
Right. By the way, we've got a clip of Rupert Lowe talking about King Prince Charles. We call him King Prince Charles because he's famous for being Prince Charles, now he's king, on Radio 4. Let's go with it.
Are you aware that by the definitions used in that particular report, King Charles is not a white Briton? Do you think he is a white Briton?
Well, Many people have different interpretations of that, Nick. I mean, we can split hairs, but I think...
Well, you're not splitting hairs. Do you think the monarch of this country is a white Briton?
Quite clear, and I think most British people, if you speak to them, would agree. And that is why
King Charles a white
Britain's
Briton?
membership is growing very fast, and your listeners are dropping equally fast because you don't reflect actually what's happening.
Why don't you answer the question now we've got you on?
You try and whitewash all of the all that are happening.
Is King Charles a white Briton, Rupert Lowe?
You peddle DEI, you peddle all of the malign agenda, which British people have got bored of.
Right.
So
they're bored of people ignoring the questions, Mr. Lowe.
I mean, he's not a white Briton by that definition. He would be white or the European, wouldn't he?
So what about Joanna Lumley? She's not an Indian Briton just because her parents she was born in India.
What you would say? So there are two things. There's where you're born and there's your ethnicity. His ethnicity is these half Danish, half British, i.e. the Duke of Edinburgh is from a Danish family that were the royal family of Greece. So you would say that he's half Danish, half British, to the extent you believe that being Danish and being British is a different ethnicity. That would be his ethnic background. They're probably not a different ethnicity, but then his mum is born in Britain, his dad is born in Crete. Therefore, it's simply.
But the thing is, that BBC presenter is assuming a form of epistemology, this way of understanding of what it means to be British, from a study that Rupert Lowe hasn't publicly affirmed. Because the study defines white British as both of your parents being ethnically British and born in this country, which means that we can admit that someone's British if they're mixed race, right? If someone, if their father is from Germany and their mother is from England, they are British, obviously. And the case also increased by the fact that you're actually born in this country and you only know this country.
But isn't there a further answer to that? To say, you know what? The fundamental problem we're trying to highlight here is not somebody coming from the Caribbean with their GCSEs and getting into the British Army. We're concerned about somebody who speaks Pashtun only, coming from Afghanistan, who doesn't understand anything about Britain and is only here to claim benefits. These marginal cases of somebody who's got a French grandfather is not the fundamental demographic change.
But also, the royal family is a ridiculous example because the royal families are all different. They're all interrelated and all come from foreign patterns.
Well, that's the thing. It's a ridiculous. That was the issue with the BBC interview, and I don't like this spin that Rupert Lowe is like incredibly. I think Alex Phillips tried to suggest that the reason his inability to answer because of his the fact he was senile, right, which is incredibly insulting towards a senior politician.
You don't like Alex Phillips?
No, I can't stand.
You had a big fall in it.
Well, no, because she went on Plank of the Week today. She said that Rupert Lowe is senile, which is incredibly disrespectful towards your elders, and also a fantastic local MP. She then went on to comment about the young people within Restore. I'm assuming she's referring to me in that generalisation on how we should go back and sell protein shakes, suggesting that we're grifters, which, of course, I would prefer to speak to young people, you know, be active at university campuses, talking and spreading the right-wing message, than rather grift that what she's suggesting.
I think that is unfair on her part. Because I think it is commendable that young people get involved in politics. There will always be some people who go to one young Conservative meeting a quarter, and there will be people like you who live it and breathe it every day. There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly, and I think that, you know, I don't know if I can say this. I would love to have a round two of Alex Phillips talking about Restore Britain, especially now, considering that Restore Britain has been put on the hot seat when it comes to media attacks. If the right wing is the ideology that we constantly talk about censorship, it seems like Restore are currently going through this media barrage of attacks, and it seems like the establishment are really going after Restore. And
well, they are with Reform as well, aren't they?
I think the thing is, it's not Reform that are having thumbnails from this own station saying that this is the policy of Hitler, right? So I think it's unfair, and I think currently now Restore are the anti-establishment party.
I think in defence of this channel, what we have a tendency to do is each show will operate in its own way, and so actually, in terms of what Alex Phillips Phillips says. Alex Phillips will say what Alex Phillips says.
She says what she wants, man. She says what she wants, but, you know, if she wants to talk to you, you know,
well,
the offer's there.
The offer is on the table. Let's have a round two. Let's have a discussion on restore and reform. But, you know, that's all I'm going to say on the matter. But I do appreciate talkTV as a station, because different presenters have a different way
give you a fair crack.
Exactly.
Now, look, you got about a minute. Anything you want to say in the last minute before we cast you into the night?
Alex Phillips. Come on, say something about...
No, just say whatever you want.
Round two. Restore versus reform, let's have it. If apparently I should go back and sell protein shakes on Instagram, convince me why I should do that. Aim high, vote for Lowe. I think the attacks by the establishment to restore Britain are unfair, and it, in fact, emphasise their popularity and gain them more membership. So please keep on going with the establishment attacks. We're going to keep on tackling it, because the right wing is being suppressed, and it's not reform that's being suppressed, it's restore Britain.
By the way, thank you, young Bob. I think you should sell protein shakes. You might make a couple of quid.
I think you could be the new Roger Cook, who was this sort of investigator who used to get beaten up by people, a journalist, and you look a bit like him, and he's not with us anymore, so there's an opening there. You should know. I showed you some videos last time I was to get into that, but that's young Bob. He's old Bob now, he's 18, but we'll be back with James Linney and Lewis Oakley and the papers. So join us on Talk, Andre and Ash.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is the press preview with Andre Walker, Asher Gould, James Linney and Lewis Oakley. And James and Lewis are...
Linney.
No, it's not. It's Linney.
He's right. It is Linney.
Yeah, it's not a double N. I think I said Linney earlier, but...
Is it
Derived
James
from
Linney?
Scottish, but it is Linney. Take the Y off, and what word are you left with?
Line.
Lynn.
There we are.
Lynn. OK, so this is the first time that James and Lewis have been with us. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves, because we're hoping that you're going to come on more often.
Oh, well, a broadcaster, podcaster, I'm just one of those people that does the rounds, chatting about politics and other things.
You've got a real jaw, haven't you?
Thank you. You know what? Whenever people disagree with me, they don't go after my arguments. They're like, who let that square-headed guy on? Like, that Lego man. What's the other one that the kids play with the block characters?
Lego. Lego
No,
head.
because of Minecraft. They're like that Minecraft character.
It's good for television, though. You're made for television.
Oh,
Well,
solid chin is good. Big chin is good. Well, it's not a big chin. You're not like Jimmy Hill. It's square.
Well, by the way, Jimmy Cricket passed away. Do you know about Jimmy Cricket? Did you learn about him in history and that?
I didn't, but I'm about to.
It's disgraceful. It's so dumbed down education. He was a comedian. He used to say, "Come here, there's more."
Come here, there's more,
He
there's
was a
more.
funny
Come
man,
here,
like, but yeah.
there's more. Okay, so you're a podcaster. What's your area of specialism?
So I've talked a lot about sexuality,
Yes.
but now I'm really trying to focus on young men because I feel like young men...
It's different, isn't it? It's all connected.
No, the suicide figures for young men are alarming.
Well, under 50, isn't it? Isn't it under
50 is the main cause of death. And just, I think now in the modern world, for young men, just trying to get ahead nowadays, to be competent, have a job, to be able to take a girl on a date or whatever it is harder than it's ever been. Then we wonder why there's a birth crisis.
I've always wondered.
So much
That's
to talk
just
about.
such a good point because, look, in my old student union at university, what used to happen is people would have sort of 8 pints and sort of sidle up to a girl, and you know, if you were very desperate, you might go for the 2 a.m. brigade. That is when the lights go up. You know,
That's when you leg it.
She looks like the back of a bus, but never mind. But now
any port in a storm.
But now, I can't believe you said that. But now, actually, I fear that young men basically get accused of being perverts for walking up and talking to women.
There's a lot of that. I mean, you look at it from so many different angles. So there's this whole idea now that because of dating apps, actually the top sort of 5% of men get all the girls, and actually the average man now doesn't get a looking, so he doesn't get a chance to be in a pub and be funny and be confident.
They're built that way, from what I'm told. The dating apps have built these algorithms very specifically.
If you are a dating app, there's no money in getting people married.
Exactly.
The money
come
is
back.
failing.
You need that user to come back. If you match someone and go off and get married, they've lost you. Whereas if you give them the unrealistic sort of 5%, top 5%, like you say.
Is it gone down now? I've heard the dating apps aren't really being used much anymore.
I'm still using them, they're just not working.
Do you know what, though? There is a push now coming back into real life. There's these dating events where you go and everyone in there is single, and it's because people don't like all of this stuff that's going on the dating apps. Where people, they'll talk for like 3 weeks before they actually get around to having a date, and people just want to know a bit quicker whether they like you or not.
But a lot of it is like dating now. It's sort of an American thing. In Britain, a lot of people just met girls, wherever you were, and in the workplace. And now that's sort of frowned upon. And like, it's something like 2/3 of married couples met at work, and now it's sort of said, people are scared to do things at work.
But it's because we're not willing to say. It's because we're not willing to say. If you're 60, you can't hit on the intern, right?
Nothing wrong with that.
We ban relationships.
I shall say
we ban relationships at work because we're trying to avoid the Philip Schofield situation. Whereas actually,
that is unsavoury.
If people behave sensibly, it's all perfectly fine. When they're saying relationships are bad at work, what they're saying is we can't tell two 20-year-olds not to date because that precludes the 60-year-old from having a crack as well.
I think on the whole it does, but I think there's also an issue with people of the same age. There's a culture that's been created in the past maybe 10, 20 years as I've been growing up, where if you're a straight man, for example, and you approach a straight woman, whether it's in the workplace or in the pub, there's almost an assumption that you're being a pervert or a creep before you've even spoken. Whereas when our parents were growing up, that was the way you met people.
Totally agree.
And I've dated on both sides of the fence, and it's something I've found.
Or is it just blokes thinking that? Do girls actually think that when your bloke comes up to them? Or
In
is
my
it blokes
experience,
being
yes. I've been told very firmly at points when I was younger, when trying to speak to women in bars, like, this is inappropriate, this is creepy, and it's nothing more than a hello.
No offence to you. I think it depends on the man. I think
the way you say it when you go, hello.
If some 6'4" confident man walks over, I think they're okay with it.
So what about mine? What would happen if I walked up to an 18-year-old girl and went, "You look pretty. Do you want to come to my place?"
I think
you're probably lucky we don't have tasers.
And it wouldn't just be her. I think we've got a culture now where all the people around her in that bar would automatically be suspicious of that when necessarily they don't need to be, you know.
But I interviewed someone on my podcast a while back, and he is someone that coaches guys on how to approach women in person. And I was going through some of this stuff with him, like, but surely that, you know, there's got to be some places you can't like approach people. Like if they're just doing their shopping, they'll be left like, it's like, no, I've met girls in the shopping aisle.
But
blah,
they're
blah.
seen
Like,
as predators, those people that run those sites, aren't they? How to pull women and all this. Now it's frowned upon. We used to get them on the show. This is a guaranteed ad courses and things.
I think it's coming back around though, because I do think there is a conversation now about, but actually approaching someone in person, as long as you are respectful, as long as you're not going to be pushy or inappropriate and just say, oh, how are you, blah, 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 get into, exactly, you know what, I'd love to take you on a date. And if they say no, you say, oh, wishing you well, off we go.
Do you know what? I lament the fact that we've got regulatory rules here, because my next question to you would have been, what is the most inappropriate thing I can say to somebody? Because my thinking would be, wouldn't it be fun if we all went to the pub now and worked out how quickly we could be thrown out for saying something inappropriate?
That is a box pop opportunity that I don't think we can pass up. Let's get that on our list.
Fantastic, wouldn't it?
God.
Next week.
I mean, I remember, I can't tell you any of these stories, can you? NUS conference where me and my mate wrote a speech, and we were like, do you reckon you could get thrown off stage in under 15 seconds? We didn't actually make the speech, but anyhow. So James Liney, you're from Bradford.
Originally, yeah. Been down here a long time, though.
Bradford has changed quite a lot?
In my experience, since I've been born, for the better, I'd say. When I was growing up, it was incredibly deprived. We had the Bradford riots when I was 7 or 8. We've obviously had the grooming gang issue that has only just been highlighted quite recently, but I grew up with knowing full well about.
Is Bradford one of those places like Bolton where actually the town centre is actually quite different to the surrounding bit?
Absolutely. So we have an inner and outer city. Yes. Exactly. And we had something called, or some people branded, the White Flight in the 2000s and just before that, where a lot of white indigenous Bradfordians either left for the suburbs or further afield like Morecambe. So the inner city is very deprived, and if you're not used to it, honestly, quite scary.
Is that
some days?
Would you say that it's been ethnically cleansed, the centre of Bradford?
Unintentionally, yeah. I think it's happened because of obviously high numbers of immigration with communities that haven't necessarily integrated as well as others do. But I also think there's been huge failures in local services and council that have allowed that to happen.
I have to say to you, the party that I went with to Royal Ascot, one of them included a medical doctor from Dubai who is doing a postgraduate at the University of Bradford, and he just said, I'm afraid the place isn't British, and is actually commuting from Leeds.
As many people do.
Now you think, but this is an Asian guy who lives in, I don't know what his religion is, but he's an Asian guy who lives in the Islamic world.
Yeah.
And he's literally saying, oh, it's a bit dodgy, Bradford.
Well, the thing is, in Bradford, we have, I'd say, two sides of that in the inner city. I've met a lot of Muslim people there that have integrated and got great jobs.
Yeah, they call us
eventually they move to the outer bits of Bradford that my family are in and stuff as well, because they don't want to live with it. I wouldn't say it's an Islamic issue, but it's a huge cultural issue that I felt bad talking about growing up, and we shouldn't have, because if we talked about it 20 years ago when I was there more, we could have got it to a better state now.
Salman Rushdie had a big effect in Bradford, didn't it? A lot of it in '89.
Quite a long time ago. But
89.
I think the sad thing is we've conflated a couple of things. If you look at, well, let's be clear. When I lived in Ascot, there was quite a lot of Muslims living there, right? But like the Kuwaiti royal family, as an example, lived across the road. I think it's very clear that there's a big difference between people coming to the country who are educated, obviously the billionaire class are always going to be completely different. But when you're talking about people coming over with jobs, when you're talking about people coming over with qualifications, when they've got capital, it's very different to filling Bradford full of people with no job, no qualifications, whatever. And when you go, this is an Islamic problem, you sit back and you think, well, is it really?
Exactly.
Or is it that we don't go for the brightest and the best? I mean, I always give the example, I've given it loads of times, of the best male figure skater in the world is the son of two former national skating champions from the former Soviet Union, a Kazakh and a Russian. Right, and those people, they said, if you get an Olympic medal, any Olympic medal, you can move to the United States of America. And you think, Well, it's not a surprise that if you're the son of two of the world's best figure skaters, you're going to be one of the world's best figure skaters. Had that been Britain, we'd have gone, have you got a cleaner in terms of our immigration policy?
But I don't think it's just about what you arrive with, it's what you're willing to do when you get here as well.
Yes.
And
we don't need any ice dancers.
No, well, you should see me, we certainly don't need any more. But I think if you're happy to come here, which I've seen a lot of in Bradford, and learn about where you're living and fit in with that, it's very beneficial. The problem we had there is so many people came with big groups. My mum's in the NHS there, and I used to go on visits that she was on occasionally if I was off school ill. The whole street on those back streets will be the same family, extended family, but there is no room for integration, and it's actually quite sad for the women, because there would be third or fourth generation women who were not allowed to learn English because they might go and get a job, they might cheat, they might widen their world, and that's what I grew up feeling quite angry about.
I have to say to you, the thing that I thought was crazy. My younger brother runs a division of a major financial services company. He's just got a new house. It's got a lake, right? He's
nice. Bradford.
He's absolutely loaded, and his children go to Bolton School, which is a posh private school in Bolton, obviously. And it strikes me that when they get the bus from their house to the school, his daughters go through, or his daughter is at the school now. His daughter goes through areas of Bolton where kids her age are being kidnapped and sent to Pakistan to get married.
This is something I know for a fact has happened in Bradford.
And they're British citizens just like she is, but because she is from a rich family and she goes to a private school, she will not be abused in that way. But because they are from a poor migrant community, they will be effectively trafficked back to Pakistan.
And the punishment if you refuse that wedding is even worse. I know of people who have, more in London actually than Bradford, but people I've known who know people who have been found out to be gay in these communities, and they're flown there with false pretences. They don't come home.
No.
We don't really. You remember we used to have honour killings in the news? We never hear about it now. It's all
they
been
do it
covered
abroad
up.
now. We've shipped it out of the country.
Well, I'm sure it still goes on here as well.
One of our callers, who's from the Asian community, said we don't have any honour killings anymore, but what we have is saris setting on fire. Because obviously, if you burn to death, then you're not going to see the bruises.
Which is what we've seen in...
No, that is one caller making this suggestion.
No, from what I know in Bradford, I can believe that. I can't say it's true, but I can tell you that I would not be surprised. Having said that, like I said, there are brilliant parts of the city, and I do think it's improving. I'm not sure why. I don't think the city of culture thing was particularly helpful, but...
I think one thing that Tony Blair did that was probably right, and I say this as somebody who left school in Liverpool in the 1990s, and it was a real dump. It was a real dump. There's just no doubt about it. Now Liverpool is absolutely lovely. I mean, it had all the buildings. They were just derelict, right? I think Tony Blair's idea of just putting a lot of money into these cities, which is something that I think has carried on with David Cameron and with probably the Metro Mayors and whatever, I think actually turning around and saying London is so rich we can just build stuff in these town centres, I think actually has kind of worked, at least to an extent.
I think it can in many cities, but you need to have the people within those cities to spend the money wisely and properly. And I just don't think we have that in Bradford. Both the culture of the public services there and the training and education we have of the people there, I don't think just throwing money at the city is good enough.
You do get some of the best curry.
Oh, absolutely, and also, honestly, some of the kindest people, both the local Brits and the people that have been there 2 or 3 generations, the best sides I've seen of immigration in this country have come from Bradford.
You can't get decent mutton outside Yorkshire.
Oh, do you know what? I've not tried because I wouldn't want it from anywhere else, but I believe you. They do it best, and I know that.
Yeah, well, this is the paper review, and we've
not done a single paper.
No effort so far. But we're going to go for a break now. But this is the press preview, and it is with Andre Walker-Asher-Gould, and his name is James Liney, and also Lewis Oakley. There are 2 guest co-hosts this evening. We always give you that title. Put it on your Twitter. You can say guest co-host on talkTV.
Love that.
Until next time. Until after the break. Goodbye.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Interesting idea. Interesting idea. I was just saying to James Liney that I did Ancestry DNA, and he was suggesting that you didn't have to necessarily spit in there. You could try another method.
My question was, how does it work? And
how to give what sample are they requiring? Well,
my goodness.
Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to order an Ancestry DNA kit. No, actually, I think it might be a crime to send that through the post.
Yeah, you probably would hear from the police. My God. Well, you're not worried, though, about giving your DNA to a company?
Exactly. How do you know they'll protect that in 50 years?
Well, you don't, actually, but I did 23andMe, and they wrote back to me saying that I'd failed to spit properly.
Oh, really? Do you know what? They've solved a lot of crimes using Ancestry. I don't know if you can do it in this country, but in America...
Yeah, ancestral DNA. No, they have done it in this country, yeah.
What, is it like historic crimes?
Yeah, where they found, like, they got the database or something like that, and then they were like, there's a genetic link between this guy that's...
Familial DNA.
That wants to know his history, and this guy that committed a crime 20 years ago. And they've been able to narrow it down.
This is definitely a cousin of the murderer.
I'll tell you, talking of something noxious, I used to work for Sir Bob Neal.
Right.
He was a Conservative MP, former leader of the Conservatives on the London Assembly. Now, to understand this story, you have to understand that any item found on the London Underground, they don't open it, they just catalogue it, and then they auction it at the end if nobody claims it.
If no one claims it at a certain time, yeah.
Give the money to charity. Bob Neal came into the office one day and went, Andre, I've got a problem. This is the way he used to talk. He goes, I've left my stool sample on the tube.
Oh, my God.
No, he said, I think we should go and get it. I went, I am not going to go and find your poo.
Yeah, how does that turn into a we? How does he turn that into his issue?
How much did it reach in auction?
So somebody at some point must have bought it at auction. Can you imagine?
Well, there was an artist who put his excrement in a tin and called it Artists SH1T, and it's very valuable. Although he didn't seal it properly, some of them are exploding in storage in these museums.
I would love it. I would love it. This Tupperware box. I'll give you 10p for it. Open it up, and Bob Neal's poo's in there.
I reckon if you said whose poo it was, you'd
you might do.
What would you take that vintage? I'm not familiar with online.
Who are these people that go to bid on stuff that was left on the tube?
There's a market for everything. By the way, we've got a quiz in 20 minutes starting.
We have, but we're taking calls tonight. If you're one of those people that goes to these auctions and buys these things, please ring in and let us know why.
James Liney's turned into Josh Rom, right? Right. Josh Rom, what happens is you get him on. I like Josh very much. What he does is he takes over presenting.
I don't know the phone number, don't worry.
It's superb. He goes,
so much so he gave him his own section. He used to go out, didn't he?
The other day,
for 20 minutes.
Last time he was on, he goes, and I'd love to get your calls on 0244. Oh,
it's very good. We give him a rant, didn't we?
Yeah.
To get it out of the system.
We asked him to do, what was it, a story on the BBC every week called BBC Watch, and he used to come in with loads of papers.
A monologue, he did a monologue.
And literally, in the end, it lasted 45 minutes. We used to go out.
It was a bit like Ronnie Corbett, the producer. Oh, you wouldn't know about that.
He's great. I've had him on my podcast, and he can talk.
Ronnie Corbett?
No, Josh. Wrong. And he can talk. Like, you ask him one question, he can just go for it.
He just goes
He's great.
Anyway, let's look at the papers. The Sun.
Let's do the press.
It's all Ola, Strictly starring their James split dancers end 22-year marriage. Clarkson says there's not enough money.
Sorry, I thought that was Duncan Bannatyne.
Yeah,
I thought it was Ronan Keating. No one knows who he is the answer to it.
No, I mean, we don't really. Clarkson says there's not enough money to mend potholes, but somehow there's enough to build a swish new palace up north. Right.
What is the Swiss New Palace? Number 10.
They just put a door on GCHQ.
Building. I thought they were taking over existing buildings. But as a northerner, I think this is nonsense. I'm sorry. We've seen what's happened with BBC and television when they tried moving it up north.
Do you think that was a failure? I thought that went quite well.
It's just London people get cabs
exactly.
up.
London people get cabs and trains up, and I don't think you're
You've got the northerners to be able to operate all that technical equipment.
Exactly. They've just got the minds.
You've got to start somewhere. Look, if I were ever Prime Minister, perish the thought, I think this is exactly what I would do. I'd say, I'd literally find, right, where's the most deprived place of the UK? We're all going there.
But Manchester is not. It's one of the it's the second wealthiest place.
I know Manchester isn't, but it's a start.
But what you're talking about is slightly different. I was comparing it to Pebble Mill versus Media City. What Andy Burnham has done, which I think is a mistake, is to say, effectively, the Prime Minister gets an office in his own city as a second number 10, and that will presumably rotate round, which I don't think is of a great deal of value. What I would do is sell Whitehall. All of those buildings full of all of these people on London waiting. You know, there's no need for anything. I will tell you, I went to the old War Office the other day for a sushi dinner, and let me tell you, it was much better as a Raffles than it ever was as the Ministry of Defence. The reality is, these government departments do not need to be in the centre of London anymore. We need to get them out about. But
they don't even go to work anymore.
An individual Prime Minister's office, I think, is of less value.
I think it's a start, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people in this country look at these politicians and think, how do you not get this? Why do you not understand? And it's because they're in this bubble. So if we can drag them out of London bit by bit, maybe they see more of what's really going on in the UK and actually start addressing it.
We're not dragging them into the Wetherspoons and the Gregs. We're putting them on a first-class trainer and at the back of a Mercedes. We're taking them up to their office. They're going to a nice hotel. They're waking up, going back to the office, and they're back in the car. What do you think they gain?
Burnham flies there. He flies in private jet.
Exactly, but what are we actually... I don't think moving people to an area when they stay in their bubble... It's like when I used to work on football. You'd send all the UEFA people off to a match in Hungary. We'd all stay in the same hotel. We'd all go for dinner together. I learnt nothing about Hungary. I don't think by putting them in Manchester...
by being fed?
And the costs, you know, near you, you've got Strasbourg and where else they go, Brussels, and they just take everything.
I think take local people if you want, but I don't think shipping people up from London at a huge cost to the taxpayer, by the way, is going to change the way
Don't you think it's a start? Because you might get all the important people bussed in. I don't mean that to be rude to anyone, but at least the people in the building running it might be local, and then you get talking to them.
I think James makes a reasonable point. I think what you have to do is you have to say the DVLA has been in Swansea for decades and it's been a success. What you need to do is you need to just move the Home Office to Bradford or something like that and just say, lock, stock and barrel, we're going to go. Now, the government ministers will say we need to be near Westminster. Just get one helicopter per government department, and the ministers can fly backwards and forwards. Now, a helicopter's a bit of an expense, but I'll tell you what, it's a lot bloody cheaper than sitting in Whitehall. It's a rip-off.
I would agree with that. I'm all for let's get government as much as we can out of London. I appreciate we've got to do it the right way.
I know, but this is my concern. I think it could be the start of a slippery slope here. We start saying, oh, you can work wherever you want. As you say, it sets a precedent for everyone that comes into that role in future. But also, we have an awful issue in Whitehall and government already with working from home, working from abroad, not being in the office. I think this sets a precedent of, oh, I'm a Plymouth MP, I can't come up to Manchester this week, so I'll just do it from home and do it from Zoom. And if what happens for them is the same as what I've seen happen in the private sector with working from home, they will not be as good at their jobs and they will not be focusing on
They call Slough Town Hall the Mary Celeste because they built this new town hall because the old one got repossessed, basically. They built this new town hall and said everyone could work from home. And literally walked in and there was absolutely nobody there. But I've got the best working from home story ever.
Go on.
The best working from home story. So, there was in Windsor and Maidenhead Council, there was a curb officer, right, which is a planning officer in charge of approving curbs being dropped, right? I mean, I know. So anyway, somebody wanted to move their dropped curb because they were building a new garage. Okay, so you know, they'd gone through all this, and they needed the curb officer's approval. So they sent an email, backwards and forwards. For 6 months, the curb officer refused to come out. This was during COVID, but he had perfectly, it was perfectly possible for him to go and visit the site. It wasn't approved. In the end, the leader of the council phoned the chief executive and went, I want you to go to the home of the curb officer, knock on his door and tell him, knocked on the door, he had moved to Australia 8 months earlier.
No. And not even informed.
A lot of them were doing that. A lot of them were
said, I was just getting away with it for as long as possible.
But we've seen the headlines recently.
I thought you'd notice sooner.
Well, they don't need to notice now. We've seen headlines this week about staff in public government departments being allowed to work from abroad.
That's what they're doing. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
As well as on top of the 3 days a week they can work from home. So if you've got your 3 at home, plus you're 1 a week from abroad. Yeah. What are you doing? Popping in on a Friday for a Starbucks and to catch up with your friends? That is what I think.
In defence of working from abroad, now I'm talking more about public. Like if you're in government, that I think is a bit different. But in defence of working from abroad, I will say, as a younger person, I guess, like it is.
How old are you, Bonham?
34.
That's not young anymore.
Let's keep telling him.
Work doesn't really pay that much anymore. I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, you do a full-time job, you may be even doing a side job, it's not paying. So I do think it is right that companies look to what's within my gift to give. I've worked from home 3 or 4 days a week for the last 6 years. I've got to see my daughter take her first steps, my son take his first steps, help her around the house.
Meanwhile, all your customers are going, I can't get through.
And whilst that's lovely,
no, and all my work has been done.
Into work.
All my work has been done. I think my work is better than when I'm in the office. When I'm in the office, it's like this. I'm chatting.
Yeah, but that's good because you're networking and having ideas and meeting people.
But I will tell you, I think the big mistake you made. I was always poor until I gave up working. Right, I've given up having a job. I'm not having a job, and in fact, I've said to my mates before, my number one piece of career advice is never get a job. In the words of what was his name, Sarah Bastard, when Alan said, "What is a job?" she said, "It's where you toil all week for barely enough money for lunch at Annabelle's." Right? It's a waste of time. 38 hours. What is it? 30 hours a week. 38 hours a week. Just minimum wage or whatever. But you can make more money just hustling.
What sort of hustle?
I don't anything.
Like TikTok and social media?
Well,
or
I do public speaking training, I do lobbying, I do broadcasting.
Yes, anyone go and do some lobbying.
I was just going to say, most people can't just walk into those roles, though, right? So what would you say to, like, the bloke up in Bradford who...
I'd say you'd be better bloody selling something on the streets than getting a job.
Fair enough.
Just don't make it your rear end. Just don't.
Anyway, look, before we go to break, got some serious update. Widdicombe police reopened investigation into Farage firebomb.
Oh, wow.
Counter-terror police investigating the murder of Anne Widdicombe have reopened an inquiry into a firebombing incident at Nigel Farage's home. Investigators announced on Friday night they were looking again into a report of an attempted burglary at a London address in April 25. The Telegraph understands this relates to a lit incendiary device that was pushed through Mr Farage's letterbox. Police investigate the attack, but no suspects were identified. The investigation was closed pending any new lines of inquiry. On Friday, counter-terrorism policing said a line of inquiry had been identified that was not pursued by them at the time. As a result, counter-terrorism policing London has made a mandatory referral over its handling to the initial investigation to the Independent Office of Police Conduct. And basically, Nigel revealed he was the victim of a firebombing attack at his home in April last year. He said an incendiary device was pushed through his letterbox, adding there are huge dangers in this job. And they're basically looking at if there are any links, and it should have been looked into more deeply.
By the way, let me just say one thing to you, Lewis. You do look a bit like the bloke off Extreme Makeover Home Edition with Ty Pennington.
I'm going to Google who that is in the break.
Anyway, yeah. So, more from tomorrow's papers after the break, but in 10 minutes, it's going to be this.
If the news leaves you scratching your head and you're baffled by what's being said, then tune in and play against Ash and Andre on the new news quiz ahead.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, this is the press preview with Andre Walker, Asher Gould. And our guest co-hosts this evening are James Liney and Lewis Oakley. And Lewis looks like the guy from Extreme Makeover Home Edition.
Which you just showed me a teeth of, and I don't think I've ever been so offended. It was the teeth. Yeah, it was the teeth that got me more than anything else.
The teeth are bad, aren't they? The teeth are bad.
Also in the Sun, and this is a big story that's breaking now. Predator was free to kill 2. Blunders by police, courts and prosecutors left a sex fiend free to murder 2 women. The failings emerged as serial predator Simon Levy 40 was convicted yesterday in London, and he was allowed on bail after being arrested for murder of one of these women in a car park. There was also British Transport Police didn't get him in an ID parade quick enough, and he was able to go and assault sexually. He was just a crazy sexual predator allowed out, and allowing someone like that on bail for murder, and then he goes out and murders again. I mean,
prolific as well. That's what if you read the timeline of this, the sheer number of incidents.
I'll tell you what. Give us some of the timeline, because I think it's interesting.
Well, the first thing is July 2018, when a woman reports being sexually assaulted by him at a party in Camden Market. We then have a second woman a month later making a similar report. It's almost a year until he is arrested for both these offences. I don't know what's going on in that year, but it's actually over a year.
They're arresting people for saying nasty things on Twitter.
They've got tweets to pursue, haven't they? He then is convicted and jailed. He assaults a woman whilst in prison. Now, I'm not sure how this happens because...
A prison officer.
It must be, yeah.
He was a prison officer.
Yeah. Right, so he assaults a woman...
So he's obviously crazy, you know...
well, he's clearly just, massively crazy.
He just can't control himself, can he?
Which is why he should never have been allowed out.
Exactly.
I mean, you go through the timeline...
And actually, in a sense, it's cruel to him to let him out on the streets because he clearly can't control himself.
It's almost like a child's instinct, I assume, but that's no excuse for these poor women. And the problem with this story
most children in my family have never sexually assaulted a prison officer.
No, exactly.
Well, one of them, this CCTV,
but I know what you mean.
He was caught on a train. British Transport Police was too slow organising an ID parade.
Exactly.
So Levi's bail was extended to April 2025. During the period that it was extended because of their incompetence, he murdered Valencia Trujillo and sexually assaulted 5 women. He was bailed for that. And then he went out and murdered again. Why do you bail someone like that?
Well, he's managed to either talk them into thinking he's up to being bailed, but if you go through the whole thing, there are multiple examples of when he's been released and things, of being visited by probation officers or public service workers who, like Rudy Cabana, have lapped up the manipulation he seems to have given them. Yes. This is what makes me angry. This is an absolute copycat case to me of Axel Rudy Cabana playing the system, manipulating them to believe he was a victim or he was a safe person. They visited this guy.
Is race a factor? Is he basically saying, I'm hard done by because I'm black? I suppose we don't know that, do we?
I actually think, with the way our public services are now, I don't believe it is. I think in a lot of issues we have race as a factor, but I think they're incompetent across the board here, and they are far too happy to believe the person.
What we now get is public sector workers saying, well, I tried my best.
Well, we saw with that guest, the Antoinette, I forgot her first name, but she was that was British Transport Police, not pulling their finger out and delaying things so then they couldn't get the CCTV.
Probation officers here, they say they visited him at home. Court cases were delayed because he claimed he was ill. He claimed he couldn't pop out much. Why isn't someone dragging him out of his front door?
He popped out a fair number of times.
Why is he on bail in the first place?
Why has he even been... Exactly. If you have sexually assaulted women in prison after raping them outside prison, there is no way in my mind you should be allowed out of it.
Well, no, he murdered. This was when he'd been arrested for murder. They bailed him.
I know. Well, if you go
and he murdered again while he was on the bail for murder.
But the point is, all that background still exists, Sasha. He might have been bailed for murder on that occasion, but there's still the whole backstory.
I didn't even know you could be bailed for murder. I thought if I was arrested for murder, you would be kept in that. I mean, I've seen people kept on remand until their trial for far less than murder. So again, why is this being allowed?
He already had a record.
Why is he an exception? That's what I think. There's going to be serious questions from people should lose their jobs.
And without being crude, this is somebody who wakes up in the morning incapable of controlling their urges. Incapable. He's got some sort of mental illness which doesn't mitigate it, but he should have been clearly identified as just a day. Well, I mean, this isn't somebody. This isn't somebody who robs the Bradford and Bingley because they need some cash. This is somebody who wakes up in a heightened sexually violent state and is incapable of ridding themselves of that.
But he's
I
also...
question why they couldn't get convictions earlier for this guy, because a lot of this happened on the Tube network, where there are cameras. Like, surely, here's the Tube camera, there's the evidence.
They could have done it. This is showing that they're just not doing their job. They don't really care. And this is how things like this happen.
Well, this is the problem. And obviously, and it started with sexual crimes and it's ended in murder, which is, is he being emboldened by thinking he can get away with things?
You'd guess so.
A big issue
I don't think it's so much that, Lewis. I think the problem is that there is a natural escalator here, which is why very often people who are flashers, the police hunt down, because a flasher is a rapist who's just getting
the police rapist who flashed at McDonald's and then murdered that woman during COVID.
And so what's happening is, as he goes further and further into this, he becomes more and more bold. That's why they should have known.
The question, controversially, that we have to ask ourselves is, what kind of country do we want? Because in the earlier things here, grabbing someone's bum and all that kind of stuff, which is obviously terrible, do you want to put someone in jail? Like, should we have, like in America, a 3 strikes and you're out thing? It's like, you know what, they might have been lower level crimes.
15 strikes and you're not caught, though.
Well, but I'm saying, like, if you cannot convict someone for a murder or something like that, do we need something in the UK? Where it's like, you are just a general menace, we're going to put you away for a bit.
I think James is right, actually. I think it wouldn't help. The reason is because what we're talking about here is police weighed down by paperwork and DEI, waste of time. In order to do the 3 strikes you out, you have to convict them 3 times, so you have to have 3 police investigations. And I think in this case, that is the problem.
He wouldn't have even got to court, because he'd have said to the probation worker that turned up, as we've seen, oh, I feel a bit ill, I can't make it. And I'll link this to something that's on the front of The Guardian, if you don't mind.
Is it Jews are bad?
For once, it's not, actually. That'll be back tomorrow, I'm sure. But it says 2/3 of NHS trusts are set to cut their mental health care. Do we think that people like Valdo Calacane or this chap we're discussing tonight, who I'm not even going to name, I have his name in front of me, but I've read as much of what he's done, I don't want to use his name because it's made me quite angry tonight. Do we think these crimes could be prevented if there was more put into mental health care or public services sooner?
To be honest, my view on these people, Axel Rudy Cabana or whatever, you're just better having them put down. I think it's the most humane thing.
I mean, Calacane was healthcare, and they said, "Oh, there's too many black guys in this part, so we've got to release them."
Which is a question I imagine a lot of people are asking about this new case, because we have the same ethnicity. And I'm wondering, as you brought up earlier, how many of those staff felt, we don't want to ask this question, we don't want to push this too far because we might look racist, which is exactly what I grew up.
It could just be incompetence.
Being ignored for.
By the way, listen to this: the attacks on the migrants, sorry, the social media attacks on migrants who invaded Sietra are all to do with Russia. Says The Guardian. There's no issue. 80,000 population and 60,000 people come, but the big problem is Russian-linked far-right bots. I mean, what is The Guardian thinking?
Well, that's our front page as well. That's something they've decided is a really important issue for this weekend.
But that was a threat, wasn't it? That Putin, do you remember the Wagner, the group, they were saying we're going to release all into Europe, loads of, we're going to flood Europe.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were behind things like this, if I'm honest.
Do you know the country that has had the most Islamic immigration in Europe is actually Russia?
Is that because of all the something stands around them?
Yeah, that's right.
Sort of made-up countries
it's all of the Russian Federation, Dagestan and all this sort of places. Turkmenistan. Have you ever been to Turkmenistan?
I haven't, but to me the names just look like you've fallen asleep on a keyboard. And it's just
Turkmenistan for many years was run by Turkmenbashi, which translates to father of the Turkmenian people.
Turkmenian?
He had this book, didn't he?
In order to get past your driving test, you had to learn his book of philosophy off by heart. Right? He was
wouldn't pass your test unless you had learned his...
And also, the other thing that's famous about Turkmenistan is the Ottoman Empire used Turkmen slaves to guard the emperor, and over time, the Turks became the predominant force in the Ottoman Empire and eventually named the country Turkey after themselves.
And on that bombshell, we're going to take a little break in. After the break, it's going to be our new quiz, which is called the New News Quiz. The new news quiz, and you're going to stay and take part in this quiz, and that's going to be right after this.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
And now to present our brand new quiz show. And the presenter, who is not going to be seen, is the ghost of Saint Olav. Right? And so Olav is going to take over. Olav, take it away.
If the news leaves you scratching your head and you're baffled by what's being said, then tune in and play against Ash and Andre on the new news quiz ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. So Olav, how are you tonight? Are you well? Are you feeling strong? Are you feeling good, Olav?
He put us on the telly. Are we on the telly?
I'm feeling very Scandinavian.
Okay, which would be sensible because you are, in fact, Olav Haraldsson. And the reason why it's the ghost of Saint Olav is because we are in Saint Olav's parish.
Love that.
Here.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, so what? Are you going to give us the first question?
Yep.
First of all, we've got to explain what's going to happen.
Just explain to you, what's going to be happening today is our guests on the news press preview, James and Lewis, are going to take you on a quiz about this week's news.
Okay, so we're going to lose. Okay, so that's fine.
Probably.
Yes. Okay, so who does the first question then? Come on.
Well, I think it should be alphabetical order, really. So,
Andre. Hey.
Well, this is for your team. You're playing as a team.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
So I'm going to put on screen a quote, and all you have to do is tell me who said that.
Okay.
So the quote is, "We will take the UK-UAE partnership even further to drive growth and prosperity in both our countries."
I believe that's got to be someone like. Oh, I think it's Ed Miliband.
Yeah, I was going to say Miliband.
Yeah, Ed Miliband.
Sorry. This is correct.
Very
answer.
good, Ed Miliband.
Would you have got that?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so James and Lewis,
Let's do this.
here's yours. What? Not again? They told you twice they don't want you. Why are you doing it again?
Is this slightly rigged to make it easier for
And
us?
this is a quote, is it, or a headline? I don't know.
This is a quote
And this
from
could be
week.
from politics or entertainment.
It's politics generally, and this was put out as a tweet.
They told you twice. They told you.
Oh
I don't know this.
no! Hold on. It's coming to me.
Why are you doing it again?
Can we get clues, Adam? Do we have like lifelines?
It's either a Reform or Rupert Lowe. It's somewhere around there.
Time's ticking.
They told you twice they don't want you.
What?
I feel like I read this
Not
tweet.
again. They told you twice they don't want you. Why are you doing it again?
Is it someone saying something to Rupert Lowe?
I don't think we're taking it, is it?
Oh. Okay.
So we've won.
I'm going to go with Count Binface.
He's done it a lot. No, he's done it once, twice.
Go on,
No,
let's get the
this
right
quote
answer.
is from Marie-France Van Heel, Andy Burnham's wife.
What? Not again? They told you twice.
Oh.
What did he do?
He ran for the
Yeah,
leadership
ran
3 times.
for leadership.
No.
She's got her way, hasn't she? The dog's staying up there. He's staying up there. So I doubt.
But
her
I
life
will say
change much at all.
also, my dad bought part of the rector's garden in the village of Goulburn and built a 6-bedroom house there. And now that Andy Burnham's from Goulburn and they're getting a new station in Goulburn, we're going to make a couple of quid. 6-bedroom, half-acre garden. Nice one.
Did they take the cat up from Downing Street? Because that's going to confuse the cat. You have
Well, no,
to
I
keep him
think-
in for a couple of weeks.
No, Larry needs to stay. I know a lot about this.
Oh,
One of my
right, yeah.
topics.
Right, let's get on with the quiz.
No,
Come on.
let's do that.
Come on.
Next question.
Okay,
I'm allowed to go
question
peace, not on.
3 of who said that.
Okay. Come on. What is it?
Reform are a woke party, and I know a lot of people don't understand. The word woke is used to mean many things. A lot of people assume it's a left-wing thing.
That's
It's got to be Rupert Lowe, hasn't it?
Rupert Lowe.
Can we come and... Yeah!
No. All right, it wasn't Rupert Lowe.
No, it's not. We know who it is.
Kemi-
Can we? Yeah, it's Kemi Badenoch.
Oh, is it Dominic Cummings?
It's Kemi Badenoch.
We got the point. Thank God.
Are they allowed to take the point?
Yes, you took the
No,
point.
no.
There was a ding. We got the point.
We haven't worked out the rules. We haven't quite worked the rules out. But
the rules
at the moment, you don't get a point.
We've got very strict rules, and that's that. I'll make them up as we go along.
Brilliant.
Congratulations, Olaf. Go for it.
What's our question?
Next question.
Have you had 2 each yet? Or was that 3?
They've had 2, we've had 1.
Yeah,
but we got ours
need our
wrong.
second one.
All righty.
So we've got 1 each now, I think.
we got both right.
Last one. No, I've done that.
Reformer or what?
Oh, come on, Olaf. You're not getting this right. Okay, come on. This is
Cammy. Right, we get the point.
Very good.
It'll be up in a minute.
Okay,
Right,
come on.
so
The next one is coming
next
up.
question is the next quote rather.
Yeah.
I love this one. Japan's been very good to us, with the exception, of course.
Oh,
of
come
Pearl
on.
Harbor.
Oh, it's as easy as a Cammy one. This is Donald Trump all day long, and for anyone that hasn't seen it, I would say get the clip because
With the
his facial
Japanese
expression
Prime
is
Minister.
fantastic. Yeah. And there's something for such a straight man. There is something very, very camp about Donald Trump with his humour and his sass, and I really, really enjoy it.
It was actually. She said, "Oh, you didn't tell us about." I think some attack he'd done. He goes, "Well, you didn't tell us about Pearl Harbor."
No, that was before. This was a new one where he was.
Oh, has he done it again?
He's done it again.
But do you not think? Do you not think the gayest world leader is Vladimir Putin? I mean, when
the
he
horses.
when he was wrestling with his prime minister matching for law leisure suits. I mean, that was unacceptable.
It's a bit of a horseshoe, isn't it? Like you can be very, very masculine, but if you go too far at the
He
top,
had those
it's
man
gonna-
boobs on that horse wobbling up and down. You remember?
In my experience of the former Soviet Union, they don't know that Right Said Fred was a gay look. they just don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's next, Olaf?
Right, round 2 is mock line or headline.
Oh,
okay.
come on.
So, Lewis and James, you can go first on this one.
Thank you.
There are 5 headlines. Which one's the mock line?
Oh, God.
5 headlines. All
So
right.
4 of them are genuine. One they've made
Cop
up.
killers will go free. Killers but not rapists to be given early release. Ministers outline cop killers leave in new exemptions. PC Harper killers will still be freed early. Rapists and groomers will not be freed early.
Now let's console over this. I think
Cop killers will go free is definitely that's definitely true. Killers but not rapists to be given early release. I'm on the fence, but I'm not sure if that was a real headline. Ministers outline cop killers leave in new exemptions. Oh, that one could be. Because the ministers haven't said anything. Do we maybe go for 3?
I think I'm going for 3 because I
Let's go
think the
for
rest
3.
of them are
Yeah.
right. I've read them, but I bet I'm wrong.
Let's go for 3.
Oh, nice.
Did
one.
it?
Guy.
Now, if you look carefully, every first letter of that mock line, Mockline. There was a clue in it. That spells out mock line.
It's a bit like 3, 2, 1, isn't it? Where you win the car.
What is this?
Right.
Right, come on, go on with it. Go on with it,
Right.
Olaf.
Yours are Infantino unrest festers. Infantino calls FIFA crisis meeting. Infantino embroiled in blackmail row. Brazen FIFA slams stubborn Infantino rhetoric. Or it's time a woman was head of FIFA.
Well, that one's definitely not true, the last one.
Which is the fake headline?
Which is the fake one? It's time a woman was head of FIFA. Is that a real one?
Well, The Guardian does exist.
I was going to say, I bet a columnist has written exactly
No, we haven't decided.
what?
We haven't decided yet. We haven't. We wasn't.
Not else. That fifth one could be real as long as Ben Butterworth continues to draw
I
breath.
think brazen FIFA slams stubborn Fantino rhetoric because it just sounds too much.
Yeah, no, force
Sounds
fake.
too much.
Force fake.
For
No.
So take the last letter of each word and read it from back to front.
Oh, come on. What's it?
CONMA.
You can't say that.
Come on, man. How have you? How is that clever? That's just ridiculous. It's like
Clues
it's
in
like,
the answer.
Oh, it's like Creed.
So have we
Caper.
won? What do we win now? Is it? Have we
We
won
haven't
it?
won yet.
All right.
Is it 2-2
Right.
now?
A Desmond.
Yeah, 2-2. Something.
So is it round
Right.
3?
Like
What
that.
was it?
So round 3.
Like my life at university.
Getting close to a minute. We'll go on to minister or sinister.
Oh yes, Ed Miliband.
Right, who's going to go first? Who went first last?
I will go first this time.
All right, so this is for both of you, Andre and Ash.
Yeah.
There are two names that are real ex-UK politicians.
Right.
And two names.
If one of them is Viscount Tony Pandy, then I will get them, because that's my pointless answer. Right, go on.
Right. Penistone Portlock Powney, Major Harris Dickinson Murray McBrain.
False, that one.
Guildford James Hillier, Mannering Elliker Onslow.
That's true.
Sir Digby Chiswick Chetwynd Savile.
Right, I think three is the Earl of Onslow's second eldest son. Yeah. I'm sure 2's real.
Is it?
Harrison Dickinson.
I thought 2 and 4 are false.
No.
2 and 4 are false.
How many are fake?
I think Penis
How many are fake?
2 real, 2 fake.
I think Penis Turn's real, and I think the third one is real. I think 2 and 4 are fake. Yeah!
Very good. Sir Digby Chiswick Chetwynd Savile was just a made-up name, and Major Harris Dinkins and Murray McBrain are the 4 members of Iron Maiden.
Oh! What's the last letter spell?
Who was Penistone Portlock Powney?
An ex
Well,
politician.
you've got to give us some details on
one
them.
of his exes.
You've got to give us some details on them. Penistone Powney, we'll find out well.
Right. Lewis and James, we've only got a couple of minutes left, so let's move on to yours. So, same again, Minister or Sinister?
This is
Sir Eustace Edward Twistleton Wickham Fines, Sir Winston Raymond Egon Peters, Montague Trelawney Ashcombe Fairfax, or Mungo Nutter Campbell.
I have no idea.
Right, I think Mungo Nutter Campbell has to be right, because you just wouldn't put Nutter in a name otherwise, would you?
Right.
And I'm going to say 1 may also be a false one, just because I think they might have misspelled Eustace by mistake. But that's all I have to go on. I don't recognise any of them.
I'm going with you. 4 and 1.
Say, no, wait.
Okay,
We think 4's real, so 1 we think is fake. We need to think which other is.
So...
Wait, you think 4 is...
4?
I think 4 is real. I don't think they'd be as brazen to put Nutter in a fake name. So I think...
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Number 4 is real. It's a former
goodness me.
Scottish politician.
And I think...
So have we won then?
1 is fake. So yeah, we're there.
Right, so we've won then. Andre and Ash.
We haven't had the answers yet. No, 1 is real.
So who's
4
fake?
is real. Montague Trelawney Ashcombe Fairfax is made up, and Sir Winston Raymond Egon Peters are the Ghostbusters.
Oh! I've got to say to you, Penistone Powney not only was the Member of Parliament for Berkshire, but he also lived on St Ives Road in Maidenhead, where I used to have an office. Penistone Powney. Come on, Penistone. Well
Anyway,
done.
look, we've got to go now. Is it Ask Ash after the news, is it?
We've actually got the midnight mystery UFO bros, followed by Ask Ash.
Yeah. Okay, so stay tuned. We've got the Talk Mystery Department.
I mean, my segment on beer was better than that.
Yeah, so Joe and Matt will be coming in to do our mystery, and then it's Ask Ash. Thanks, guys, for that. That was amazing, wasn't it?
Thanks
Watch
for
now.
us.
Have I got news for you?
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. This is the UF Bros with Andre Walker, Asher Gould, but more importantly, with Joe Stock and Matt Thornton. Joe and Matt, take it away. What have you got to say?
Hello again.
Hi there. Yeah.
Long time no see.
Yeah, man. You've been in Spain, haven't you? Investigating UFOs.
Been in Spain, investigating aliens, but now we're here to talk about the aliens that everyone cares about.
And what information have you brought us? The latest UFO data.
Tranche 5.
Tranche 5.
So the latest release of the USA alien data.
Quite right.
And what's that?
You're keeping up
You're
to
an
date with
expert.
it. Yeah,
Well,
you know more than we do.
He does,
I
doesn't
don't.
he?
Well,
so.
yeah, that's not very difficult. Though.
Anyway,
what
yeah,
have you found out, man?
We had the 5th file drop to date, so the Department of War have been slowly releasing all these files about UFOs,
Getting us ready for the
under Trump's
For the
orders.
big reveal.
Yeah.
But bit of a damp squib, wasn't it?
People seem to be a bit let down. There's a few videos, but none of them are particularly mind-blowing compared to what has come before.
Why have they done this? Are they trying to wind it back
Throw
in?
us a little
Actually,
curveball.
nothing to worry about here. Forget about what we said about aliens.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are saying that this might just be a nothing burger, that there's nothing to it, and this is like some kind of psychosis or, mass panic about aliens that sort of grip the US government. But, well, it's not the only thing that's happened since we've been away. So there was Trump has signed an order which basically makes any sort of
NDAs. It takes away NDA
non-disclosure agreements.
Non-disclosure agreements. Previously, if contractors, people who work for the government, soldiers.
Well, a lot
whatever.
of them have got bumped off. About 20 of them got bumped off, didn't they, recently?
Scientists,
allegedly.
yes, but a lot of people have seen things that they have signed sheets of paper that say that they can't talk about.
And now
they
if you
can.
have signed something like that,
Even
you can
an
still...
official government secrets thing.
Yeah,
The final arbiter of what is secret and what is not secret in the American government is the president.
Correct.
He is perfectly able to. This was the debate about Mar-a-Lago. There is a form to fill out to declassify stuff, but it's only a process. He can simply say, "I'm declassifying this," and that's it done.
Are you guys familiar with letting 100 flowers bloom or whatever it is?
No.
So back in the day, Chairman Mao, after one of his brutal purges, decided to allow a little bit of freedom of speech, let journalists, let lecturers, let whoever speak their minds and perhaps have some helpful ideas for the government so that they might be able to improve the country. Anyway, all of these journalists and lecturers and whatnot spoke their minds, but it just created targets for the communists later.
Who to get?
Could this NDA disclosure thing just be creating
Fishing
targets?
out the people
that's the
quite a
question.
with the
disturbing
loose lips.
thought. But the idea is that it will have the opposite effect, that this will liberate people that were involved in the programmes and allow them to come forward.
But both of them can be right, Joe, because what could happen is Donald Trump could think this will liberate people to let them go forward, and then the next president could say, now we have a list of the people that are telling the truth.
Yeah, it could well be. Or, you don't... It could also mean that, certain people will be looking at the people that are coming forward and think, right, well, those are the people we've got to come after, as you were saying. But it's a positive development because it's what the certain congressmen and senators have been campaigning for a long time, and they claim that they're in contact with people that were on these programs, and the thing that had been stopping them from coming forward was these NDAs that they signed. Well, now they haven't got an excuse, so they should come forward and make good on their promise.
So what are you expecting?
Well, what am I expecting?
I mean, obviously that's a guess, right? And I appreciate that.
I don't know. It's a complicated one because every time because I don't know if you saw, but Time magazine, it's a big US publication. Yeah. The front cover of it today was about the UFOs. It was explaining to the layman what had all been going on in this big article. So that was another big deal. So I don't know. You do still feel like maybe we're all being sort of brought together to await an announcement, but still, it seems like every time you feel like you're getting closer, you suddenly have to take like 10 steps back, because like today...
Well, what did come out today?
Well, it was a load of grainy footage. There is one interesting document which talks about how they... Are
we, sorry, before you go any further, are we now running out? Because you've previously been, I wouldn't go as far as to say excited, but you've been engaged in previous information drops. The two of you seem less interested.
I don't think we're running out. I think this is each of the previous drops have been more interesting than the last in the videos, in some
It's like
way.
the third album. It's hard to get there right. Yeah.
They've gone back to album number 3, you know?
I think this all started at the beginning of the year when this whistleblower came out and said that there was going to be a speech on the 8th of July, the president disclosing this non-human existence on Earth. On the anniversary of Roswell. Now, that date has long passed, and it hasn't happened. That didn't come to fruition. However, there was another piece of news that came out this week where Robert Bigelow, who we've mentioned
Bobby Bigelow, have you got him on the show? I told you to get Bobby Bigelow on the show.
We'll book him next week.
He's not taking our calls. But he's a billionaire, and he's been very invested in this subject, and he's revealed that he just recently had an hour-long briefing session with President Trump. And he told him that you need to make an announcement about what this is, and he said that you need to tell the public that it's a non-human presence on Earth. And he wouldn't say what Trump's reaction was, but Trump has been told this stuff personally, face to face.
Yeah, but Trump may think it's garbage.
Well, and I've heard rumours that maybe that might be true, that he's not very enthusiastic about
I think Trump, if I was Donald Trump, I would turn around and say, look, part of draining the swamp is to say that we are going to have much more openness in government. Therefore, I am happy to shove this stuff out of the door, even though I don't know or care about it. I mean, that's an entirely legitimate thing to do. I mean, governments disclose information all the time that's of no interest, just in order to prove that it's of no interest. So Donald Trump might be saying, well, I don't have the conclusion to this, but I did say that I would drain the swamp. I did say that I would be much more open. Also, a lot of his supporters do want to see a lot of this information. And I think it's important to understand you don't need to draw a conclusion in order to release it.
Yeah, and also a lot of his supporters were quite badly let down by the Epstein response.
Yes.
So, you know, as that was all sort of going to flames, he then makes a big announcement saying, oh, well, we're going to release all the alien files.
I mean, he was an idiot on Epstein, simply because there was an allegation that Epstein was blackmailing people, and all you were going to do was release a name of victims and effectively imply they were rapists. Right, so it's in reality it's Epstein's victims, isn't it? Not people who've done anything wrong.
Well, yeah,
arguably.
More information is to come, I'm sure.
But so have you got a bit bored with the UFO
we're not
thing?
bored.
I mean, what are you going to do about
this?
this?
There is still some interesting stuff in this fifth tranche.
Well, what's the interesting stuff?
Well, what if there was a crashed UFO with a human inside of it?
Now you're talking. Tell us more.
Well, there's a case that the US government was investigating where supposedly an orb, like a spherical UFO that we see in all these videos, crashed in Brazil, and this was in the 1960s, and a dead spaceman, according to
that would
the
make sense because they've been flying them around from Roswell. Apparently, you know, this is what Bob Lazar says.
They're not very good pilots, are they?
Well, it's complicated gear, isn't it?
The human body was supposedly retrieved from within this strange orb.
But that then goes back to the theory that I have, which many people have, that they're just experimental jets.
Yeah, quite exactly. Yeah, but it's sort of a very interesting thing because it proves that there is an experimental aircraft program that.
I mean, one would assume that the aircrafts that we are aware of are 30 years old.
Well, yeah, they are. I mean, the Stealth, and they just released a new B-2 Stealth. These were started in the 60s, so the stuff they've actually got is far more advanced.
That's what I think it's they're 50 years ahead of us in terms of what
I mean,
they're pretty open about the fighters, aren't they? The Typhoons.
But no one's seen a flying orb with no sense of propulsion yet. So
this flying orb stuff is zero gravity. It's
but also, is it possible? I've been thinking a lot about the things that you've said. Is it possible that there is a plane of some description that can give the impression that it is outperforming science by perhaps beams of light or some sort of I don't know, energy thing?
The problem is these things really outperform in terms of They appear and disappear. They're able to travel through water like it's not there. They're able to travel between water and air.
But assuming what you are seeing is the aircraft. That's the point I'm making.
It's on radar, but it's also been seen with the naked eye. And also we have to realise some of the manoeuvres that these things have made, the speed accelerations, and we have had videos of that released. Those accelerations would not only, you know, kill anyone inside the plane, but it would also destroy the plane.
But my point is, what if what we're talking about here is an aircraft that has a defence mechanism which is effectively a diversionary tactic? So what you're doing is you're projecting, say, a hologram onto some clouds, and actually, you know, that the entirety of the American Navy is going to be watching the cloud, when in fact, actually, the aircraft itself is in another location, simply beaming.
I would say maybe, but there have been all sorts of examples where it's non-military people in a non-military circumstance, and this goes back, you know, 100 years now.
Yeah, more than that. You know, if you look through history, as we said before, that this stuff has been going on for so long.
Thousands
but I do think it's a fair point, and it could very well be that these are, you know,
some might be military stuff.
What do you think, though?
You favour the theory that there are humans who are more advanced than us who don't associate with us, don't you?
I think, or something along those lines. I think the space is massive, and the idea that
it is.
And I'm not saying
it is a big old place. It's really massive.
It's not that aliens necessarily wouldn't be able to travel distances quicker than we could, you know, faster than speed of light. But for them to have found us in, you know, this massive void of space, it would make more sense if it was something more personal to our planet, like a lost civilization.
What happens if we, and this is Nazi Germany style, realise that there are two categories of human and we're the B team?
Yeah, well, that would apply to aliens. If we find out that we're the lesser power in any sense, it's going to be a massive existential moment for us.
But imagine. So we are used to believing that we are the most intelligent, the most creative beings in the universe. That is the view that I was brought up with. What if they said there are two categories of human, almost like the Nazi German Untermenschen, people who are not fully, you know, there's humans and there's humans, right? And basically what we are is more rat-like than we are human-like, and basically we're the losers. And they're a group of very highly intelligent humans who just allow us to play because we're fools.
Yeah, it's really disturbing.
That would be a very disturbing thing.
But I don't think it's any different from it being something that's non-human that's more superior to us, because it's that same feeling of, oh, we're not in charge of our own destiny. We are not, you know, we could be wiped out in an instant. I mean, we haven't been. So if there is, you know, a non-human or...
Are they protecting us? That's a lot of the...
Are they monitoring us?
Stuff that's been attached.
But once again, this then comes back to the whole God thing, because when you're talking about things like angels and demons and all this sort of thing, look, I mean, there's lots in the Bible, because there's just an assumption here that you know, stuff that UFOs and all this and stuff that's in the Bible are completely contradictory. But actually, it's not necessarily true. You know, as an example, the revealed wisdom. The Ten Commandments to Moses, the Bible. Well, the New Testament isn't so much, but then you've got the Quran and things like. Yeah, absolutely. As something coming down and giving, you know, the stone tablets.
The Anunnaki.
The Anunnakids.
Jabulon.
And also.
What is a Jabulon?
I don't know. Don't tell the people.
Come on,
don't tell the people.
Then also, you know, the idea of the giants coming down and breeding with the people on the planet. Yeah, so that's you know,
fields of Nephilim.
Yeah, I think it's all. A lot of people now, and especially people within the US government and what have you, they think it's all the same phenomenon. We just look at it through different prisms. So you know, you see like a more scientific idea would be, oh, it's life from another planet. A religious thing would be, well, it's angels and demons.
What about the awful idea? What about the awful idea, which is one the basis for slavery in the United States of America, were obviously, once again, the same theme, two categories of human. One category has a soul and one category does not have a soul, and therefore you can enslave those that don't have a soul. And what perhaps could happen is, what if God is leading if you like, the people who can go to heaven or whatever, and the rest of us are merely just on Earth for a period of time. Then we die, and that's the end.
Yeah, well, that's grim. It's a horrible.
Oh, Ken in London.
We were discussing this the other day.
We got Joss in Leeds. She wants to talk. We got you through to the mystery department.
Hang on.
Joss in Leeds are just going to put their headphones on. If we could have been ready before, I would have been good. Put your headphones on. And Joss in Leeds through to the mystery department, and she's going to talk crop circles. Joss.
Crop tops.
Hello, is that Robbie stopped talking now because he kept interrupting?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God for that.
One small step for man.
Hello?
Yeah.
I thought that was just in Neil Armstrong then.
Yeah.
Or Lance.
So what's up, Joss?
Crop circles. You've got a lot of crop circles. You like that?
Who's hearing aids on so much? Someone's hearing aids. Sorry,
Joss. Got
Joss.
me hearing grenades on, sorry.
Crop circles. You got a lot where you live, have you, in Leeds?
Yeah, we live the outskirts of Leeds, and there's a lot of crop circles around here, and they don't get reported because a lot of people think it's wind, and it's not wind that causes.
No, it's not. It's people with planks of wood, isn't it?
There's crop circles, there's crop mutilation, there's cattle mutilations. All of these things happen in the countryside.
There's a lot of mutilations going on, especially cattle.
What happens to the cattle?
What happens? They get mutilated.
Yeah, but in what way?
In what way?
Their blood gets
sucked. It's a very specific way.
Well done, Joss knows. He sees the actual beasts.
We come from an agricultural background, and we work on farms and stuff, me and my brother, and we see it firsthand, but we can't report it because no one wants to hear about it.
What do you see, Joss? Tell us what you see.
You don't want to know what we see.
No, I do want to know. That's why I asked you what you want to see.
Have you ever heard of a reverse steer? Well, that's what happens at full-grown cows.
A reverse what?
Steer. That's what happens at full-grown cows.
Essentially, the modus operandi of a cattle mutilation is essentially there's a strip of flesh around the jaw is usually removed. They're getting removed.
It's from the inside out.
It's very
Wait, hold on, because Joss is an actual cattleman. What have you seen, Joss?
Well, we've seen a lot.
Well, tell us. Just tell us. You keep saying you've seen it. That's what you're saying, Joss.
Well, let me speak. So we've had 1,500 cows in the last 2 months, and nothing's been. We've reported it. Nothing's been on the news. But then there's been however many cows up in Scotland because that bloke and his licence to have cattle.
Sorry, Josh,
you still haven't told us what the cattle.
Did you say you had 1,500 cows mutilated?
In the last month.
And what's happened to them? What's happened to them, Joss?
We've had to put them back into a fucking blender.
I don't know.
No, he's talking rubbish. He's talking rubbish.
Ken, make sense of this. This is Ken in London. Make sense of Joss.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, Ken.
Gentlemen. Listen,
good morning, Ken.
Good morning.
Listen, we have got a testimony of someone who came from another realm approximately 2,000 years ago, and it was all witnessed and written down in history when God sent his son Jesus to this earth. We have had a visitation from another planet, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and you don't believe what the witnesses say. You want to believe all this nonsense about UFOs when the witness of Jesus has changed.
I mean, Ken, can I ask you this question? Because I have to say, this idea of people coming down from wherever, I think is in line with the Bible, not contradictory to it.
There's a demonic visitations, demonic manifestations. There's a spiritual realm. Demons can move around, not being seen, and they can also reveal themselves. It's in the Bible. There's a spiritual realm which is unseen, but there's times when that is revealed to mankind. And I believe most of these UFO things, unidentified flying objects. You're talking a lot of nonsense about this. I'm talking about.
Ken, I'm not saying you're wrong necessarily.
We've discussed this.
Made the point that you're making is that we look at this situation through a scientific lens now, but you may as well also look at it through a religious lens because we don't know what it is.
Listen, Jesus came from heaven. He was born of it. This is an amazing testimony of someone who came to this planet and approximately 2,000 years ago, and you won't believe it. He was born.
Why should we?
He lived a sinless life. He's healed the sick. He raised the dead. He was crucified. He was buried. He rose from the dead and ascended to heaven. And it was all witnessed by men.
Yeah, but look, right, he turned loaves into fish. I don't like fish. If someone come and turn my loaves, I love a bit of bread. But if someone come and turn my loaves into fish, I'll be really angry.
Is it not possible to believe that, but also think that...
But just to be clear, he did not turn bread into fish.
What did he do?
What he did was he fed 5,000 with not enough food because he increased the amount of fish and bread.
Can you not believe in Jesus, but also believe that there might also be something else out there in space, or indeed on our planet?
Jesus is God. Jesus claimed to be God.
Why did he turn water into wine, trying to get us all on alcohol?
Now, here's Ash. He's a God mocker. Ash is...
Calls me a God mocker. He gets angry now. Call me Antichrist.
I loved you, Ash, and I respect you, but you're a God mocker. You mock Jesus. You're in trouble with God. You're under the condemnation of God, my friend. I'm telling you the truth. God sent his son, and it was witnessed by many people, written down in history. The most authentic text in Scripture we have is the record from the Bible. There's over 30,000 texts from ancient history speaking about the Bible, and you won't believe it. You don't want to believe it.
Can you not
believe in this UFO nonsense?
Can you not believe in God and Jesus, but also say, I want to look into the Roswell incident? It seems quite interesting.
Well, don't answer that, Ken. We'll come back to you after the break. 03444991000. Go and think about that, Ken. Go and think about that deeply, and we'll be back with Ken in 2 minutes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk, and we were talking to Ken because I genuinely believe, I genuinely agree, I think, with what Ken is saying, that that there are no little green men and aliens coming from other planets. What we're talking about is angels and demons, which is consistent with what was in the Bible. But Ken, we cut you off mid-flow because of the break. Please continue.
Yes, listen, the testimony of the man who came from heaven, Jesus the Messiah, is fantastic. It's the most fantastic record and witness of a human being who lived on the planet Earth. And the thing is, people don't want to believe it because they would prefer to live in sin and live the life.
Well, let's talk to Catholic Carol in Manchester. She wants to stick her oar in. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Oh, good morning.
You're still with us, Ken?
Good morning. Ken. I'm a Catholic. I believe in God.
Dangerous.
I brought my children up, right? There's no sin in any way of people believing in whatever they believe. It's the old thing, isn't it? Hello?
Carol, have you ever seen a ghost or a UFO?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about it, please?
Yeah, I have. I was 7 years of age when I lived in Hyde, and I've seen some in the
I've seen a few ghouls in Hyde, believe me.
Are we
Ignore him,
okay
Carol.
with that?
Ignore him, Carol.
No.
Right, are we okay with that?
Yes.
And seriously, at 7 years of age, right, I seen in the Hyde where there was some like dots, you know, like moving from one area to a light, moving one area to another.
In the sky.
And exactly the same
New
thing.
nightclub opening.
Exactly. No, but no.
Ignore
you know,
him.
like, be
Ignore
serious.
Ash.
So you saw like a cluster of UFOs, right?
No.
No.
I didn't say that.
Listen, Joe, listen.
I've seen some lights, you know, like, and I'll
You
be
saw
honest,
some
like,
street
it
lights
stayed
when
with
you
me
were
all
7.
life.
No, we're listening.
It stayed with me since I'm 65. And then when I was around about 19, and I lived in Moss Side, I seen exactly the same thing. It's not connected with me. It's not what you call it. It's just witnessed with it. You know, like
You just saw it happen. It was like
Yeah, you just saw some street lights and you thought, they're new in Manchester.
No, I mean, no, she obviously saw something.
No,
Look,
behave.
a lot of people see things.
Behave.
A lot of these.
Behave. There weren't no street lights.
Yeah, they probably were, though, weren't they? Because you were used to candles.
Carol, Andre is a naysayer. Ignore him.
What colour were
You
they?
know, like with it, and I believe in God, and people can say to us, as you, Andre, you know, like with it, at the end of the day, people can have a poke at us believing in God.
I've not
and
poked
I
you.
do believe in God.
So what do you think
Very,
you
very
saw?
much.
What do you think it was?
I don't know. I haven't got a clue.
Well, you must think it was. You would have thought it was aliens,
No,
though,
I
wouldn't
don't
you?
think anything.
Was it in the?
Well, you must have some
stages
thoughts
there.
about it. Do you think it's human related or alien related?
I just said I don't know.
Because, you know, I don't want to speak for him, but I don't think Ken would begrudge you for
think
having
it
seen
was
that. He'd just say it was
unusual.
more religious than
Think
alien.
It's got nothing to do with religion or whatever. It's just in my lifetime.
How fast did
it
they
was
move
very
across?
different.
How fast did they move across the sky?
Pardon?
How fast did they move across the sky?
Amazing. Like, I can't tell you.
So sort of back and
I've never
forth.
seen
They were
anything
going
like it
back
in
and
my
forth.
life.
Can I just read something to you? Somebody said, Andre, there's very strong evidence that life exists on billions, if not trillions, of planets. There is no evidence that God exists. That's not true, actually. What they are saying is there are billions and trillions of planets. So it's possible that what happened on Earth has happened elsewhere. There is no evidence that there is life on other planets, none whatsoever.
No, and there's lots of scientists that are scratching their head about that because they're wondering why have we not encountered.
It can't be.
Well, it's so big.
Can I calm you down?
Yes.
Can I
please do.
say at the end of the day, it's just exactly with Ken, right? He's so passionate with what.
Ken,
he
you still there,
believes
Ken?
in.
Well, look, Ken believes,
Passionate
and I
Ken.
think that's why we love
you
him so
there,
much.
Ken?
You've silenced Ken, Carol. He hasn't even talked since you've been on.
Ken, speak to me because I believe in God. I brought my 3 children up in the belief with God, right? I brought them up, the Catholics, massive, and the lovely, lovely people. But at the end of the day, right, they've got their own mind as well. And they do believe in God. They don't believe in probably Ken, you know, right, God bless you. Nobody is going to hurt my kids. God is not going to hurt my kids.
Carol, can I tell you something about the man Christ Jesus who came from heaven to the planet Earth?
Oh, I know him.
He gives us wonderful. Let me just tell you the wonderful promise that the man who invaded Earth, Jesus Christ, this is the promise he gave to everybody. Truly I say unto you, he that believeth on me has everlasting life.
How he spoke medieval
I am
English.
The bread of life. Now, that's the promise from the man who invaded Earth. He died for us and rose from the dead, back to heaven. He's coming back soon. This is not religion. What the people are seeing, and they're seeing some amazing things, what they're seeing is manifestations of demons to take people's minds away from Jesus. That is the purpose of the devil. He wants us to concentrate on this new religion.
Can I just stop you for a minute, Honor? At the end of the day, right, if that is it, unfortunate in this modern life, you have to give evidence. Just like, if there's an alien or whatever, in this modern world, you have to give evidence. And that's...
Well, there's evidence in the Bible, my dear friend. There's evidence is written in the Bible.
No, to me, I don't need that. I don't need the evidence.
It's
I
faith.
know, I believe.
She already knows it.
And, you know, like...
That's what religion is, a matter of faith.
At the end of the day, with God, if you put another O in it, G-O-D...
God-O.
If you put another O in it, it's
God.
good.
But your issue with Ken is that you're annoyed because Ken thinks that what anything to do with UFOs is related to demons, which is fine. You don't know what you said yourself. You're not sure what you saw. You're not sure what it was. So what's the issue? It may well have been. It may well have been a demonic.
I don't have to broaden it. I don't.
It's just
with respect, Carol. Carol. With respect, what Joe is saying is that you're criticising Ken, but what you're saying is not inconsistent with Ken's position. What you're saying is, I saw 3 lights in the sky. I don't know what it was, and Ken says, I do know what it was. It was a demon trying to take you away from God.
So Ken wins.
Right. So at the end of the day. That it's up to Ken what he believes in, and it's up to me.
No, that's not how Ken sees it. Ken doesn't see it like that.
I don't like this. My truth. Anyway, thank you so much, Carol. Thank you so much, Ken. Let's go to a break. I think.
Are we going to do Ask Ash? Ask Ash after the break. Thanks, guys. Great mystery. What are you going to? We've got loads of callers.
Next week we've got an interview. I'm sure we've got more aliens. Stay tuned.
You heard the man. Back in 2 minutes. Ask Ash. Give me a ring.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, it's Talk. Just duck down a bit here. It's Talk. Andre's popped out. 03444991000. I'm going to take some calls, any advice, but also, you know, just take your calls anyway. Susan in Essex. Good morning, Susan.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Hi, Ash, how are you?
All right, yeah, how are you, man? How's it? Where in Essex are you? It's a very big county.
Leigh-on-Sea.
Oh, it's very nice, very nice. And it down Southend way.
Yes, it's not very nice there.
It's nice though. You got the seaside there. It's beautiful. Leon Sea's lovely.
Well, yeah.
I've been down there. Yeah.
It's nice. It's a little villagey type place.
Yeah, everyone knows everyone.
Southend, really. Yeah, it's all right.
So you saw a UFO 40 years ago with your mother?
42 years ago. 42. I was about 25.
So 1984. Interesting.
Yeah, and I did call you, and I got.
What, in 1984? I wasn't doing the show.
No, I called you about 3 or 4 years ago, so I feel so strongly about this.
Yeah.
And I'm a Catholic too, and my parents had a home in Spain growing up, second home there, and walking down, my mother and I were going down to. My father and my sister were waiting for us in the restaurant, and I said, "Oh, Mum, look!" And looked up, and there was this big cigar.
Yeah.
It was massive. I mean, it was absolutely, and it was just stood there.
Was it moving slowly?
No, it wasn't moving. It was totally stagnant.
Well, that's an airship, isn't it? Is it an airship?
No, it wasn't. No, I promise you. Because let me tell you, after, we were in Spain, so I ran in. There was a barber shop still open. Ran in and I said, "Quick, come out and look." There was about 4 men, and I was, in my early 20s back then, or mid. Well, I don't know. I could have been 24.
Don't give your age away.
I'm 68 now.
Oh, happy
No,
birthday!
I'm 68.
Happy birthday!
Yeah, I had it, about a week or 2 ago.
Oh.
So, I dragged all these.
You got
men
the barbershop
out
men
from
out,
the barbers,
the barbershop quartet.
and we all stood in a row watching it, and then later, Mum and I were really late, to meet my sister and my dad for dinner.
Yeah.
And they always made jokes, we were so perfect with our hair and our makeup. And they said, "Oh, my God, what's your excuse this time? You're really late for the dinner." And we said, "You're not going to believe it. We saw a UFO." And, of course, it was just everybody. They were laughing.
Right, now, so hold on. It didn't move?
No.
So you just what? Did you get bored of it and go? You thought, I better go for dinner now?
In the end, let me tell you, my mum, I would have watched it all night, but my mum was... come on, Sue, we're really late. We've got to...
But didn't you go, "Mum, this is a big moment in human history. There's a UFO." And she went, "No, we've got to go for dinner."
I did, and I wouldn't take my eyes off of it. But then as I crossed the road, Mum and I were crossing the road, but obviously I was looking, they drive a bit crazy in Spain. So I took my eyes off of it for literally a couple of seconds, and I looked up and it was gone. But the whole thing of this was... My mum, my dad and my sister were laughing at me and my mum and saying, "Oh, trust you two. You saw a UFO." It wasn't. It was an airship, just like you. They were taking the mickey out of us.
So what colour was it? Was it very bright, and what colour was it?
It was a dark grey, like a pewter, a dull...
So this was in daytime, was it? Sort of light?
It was just before it was getting dark. It was like...
Yeah. And how big was it? Could you judge the distance and how big it was, the machine?
No, literally. If somebody... I got the feeling, honestly, Ash, I because I was very religious up until then, and I still am. I haven't lost my Catholicism. I don't go to church all the time, but I still pray and I respect God. Never, but I do think it's a spiritual type thing. I think it's more angels and demons, to be honest, because I've really delved into the whole subject very much.
Well, I'm sure after... And what have you found out? Have you found out more? Because you hear about these cigar-shaped... but you don't normally hear that they're still. They're normally moving, aren't they?
No, they're literally totally... Well, obviously it moved because it left, but let me tell you that they closed the airport in Mallorca.
Yeah.
Later on, we went for we all went for an ice cream and a coffee after dinner. You know, there's a place on the seafront there, which is we saw where Mum and I saw it was over the sea, but we went to this where the Paseo where everybody walks by, and so we went there, and there were a couple of pilots, and they came over.
Yeah,
it's really weird, and well, Sharon and I, you know, we were two young, you know, quite good-looking girls at the time. And so these two Spanish guys came over and they said, Mum, Dad sitting there, and they said, "You're not going to believe," you know, in their broken Spanish, in English, what we saw tonight. And Mum and I turned around and said, and they said, we're pilots who work for Iberia. You're just not going to believe what we saw. Mum and I went, "You saw a UFO?" And they went, "You saw it too?" And then go ahead, about 8 years ago, I was talking to somebody in Spain, in Mallorca. I went back there. I lived in America since there. And my sister lived in Mallorca, so I went back there to visit. And I was talking to this guy, and I was saying, "Oh, it's so hot," and it was very hot. And I don't know how we got on the subject, and he said, and I said, "Well, you know, I did see a UFO here, you know, 30 years ago back then. This was about 10 years ago." And he said, "When?" He said, and, you know, I said, "Well, my parents had a home here and blah, blah, blah." And he said, "Where did your parents have a home?" And when I told him, he said, "My mother, we saw it." He was 5 years old at the time. You know, he was quite a bit younger.
So this only happened once, did it? Did it not happen in Mallorca more than once, or did he just say there was this one particular night, 1984?
I've only ever seen
No, but the
one.
other guy, the people that lived there, did they?
No, that was the same one. That was the same.
So it was the same.
UFO.
It didn't happen again
He
in Mallorca.
remembered it as a 5-year-old, and he said it changed my mother's life. She was never the same.
But no one
never the same after.
Why? What she thought different about life? Did she?
Yes.
What, religious and all that? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, she was Spanish. Okay, I'm Catholic. I went to I went to school, a convent school, but no, I think
no one took any pictures of this, even though it was in daylight and it was 84 people had video cameras.
We're talking 40.
Yeah, but people had cameras then, and people had video cameras. You know, people had camera. I mean, for something like that, you're going to get your camera. It was there for hanging around a long time.
No, this was the early 80s. No, well, we didn't have cameras then. Really, we didn't.
We did have cameras. I was there. I remember cameras. People had cameras.
I remember the first camera, video camera I bought, and it was quite avant-garde, was for my father. And
all right, maybe a video, they were quite rare, but cameras weren't rare. I mean, you'd have thought someone in Mallorca would have took a snap of it if it was there for a while.
Well, this was a holiday home for us, so we didn't really take photos. I didn't keep a camera with me.
Someone else could have. But anyway, we'll look into it. Maybe there is a picture of this craft in 1984. That was very interesting. And when you get these callers like this, you know, they are telling the truth. You can tell when someone's telling the truth, and she definitely did see something. And maybe it is alien life form, the Anunnaki, or Jabulon. But anyway, let's go to Jeff in Hastings.
Oh, hello, guys.
What?
Who's that? Is it Ash?
Yeah. Are you on hand-free? Can you use your hand? Can you use your hand, please, Jeff?
Oh, no, I am holding the phone, yeah.
Oh, right, OK.
Yeah, I've got the telly on the speaker down. You've still got the Susans.
Right. Right, yeah. Well, you don't want to listen to that. That was a while ago, yeah. What did you want to talk about, Jeff? It says here, you want to clarify that you believe in a creator. Jesus was rebellious and had a go at them. And what's it you want to say, Jeff?
Yeah, I don't want that phrase to get mixed up. Firstly, as far as the spaceships and UFOs, I mean, that's a different story to religion, you know. I mean, that's
or is it? Ken says they're demons.
No, they're not dead. That's a load of codswallop, mate. And I don't mean to be very rude to anyone, but I've heard a lot of stuff on here. You've got to look at things logically and with evidence, yeah?
You're right, yeah.
Now, the thing is, if I ever saw a spacecraft and I was in a right frame of mind, I'd say I saw one, whether you believe it or not. There's always been a lot of people all over the world. There's a documentary on about it's supposed to be some stealth planes from America and all that lot. I don't, you know, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if they are aliens, they were created by God from another planet, and they're just having a fly around. They're probably more advanced. They're able to fly around and have a look at the Earth. That's it, really. End of story.
Doesn't it? Like a sort of cruise holiday.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going up into space now, and we're probably behind in technology.
We're miles away, yeah. We're miles away. I mean, you look at our technology 100... You know, when Churchill began war, he did it with a sword. By the end of his war career, they had nuclear weapons and jets. So you can see how much we developed in just 100 years. So imagine these alien craft are going to be just unbelievable.
There will always be something more advanced and something more behind, as in the world we're in now. Country will be more advanced than another country. My great granddad was actually a drummer boy for Churchill. Now you mentioned him.
Oh yeah.
In the Sudan, yeah, he was a drummer boy.
Wow,
and he went through the First and Second World War. Funny enough, he got killed by a German lorry in Germany while he was still posted over there after the Second World War.
God.
But that's another story. Now the thing is, as far as Jesus is concerned, I'm led to believe and understand, and quite, you know, more so than not, believe that a virgin woman could have a baby. Now,
there's ways, yeah.
Yeah, right. Now, you know, through the conception of her and the inner conception, if you like. But I believe Jesus was just a man that had it and knew what was going on. He actually spoke up and told the people, give to Caesar what's to Caesar and give to God what's God. He didn't say, give to my father what's my father's. He said, give it to God, right? Now, coming back on the third day he rose again and stuff like that, I believe he was trying to teach people the right thing and believe that some of them... I mean, some of these religions, and you might have heard about this, is that, oh, when we die, you are good. You will go to heaven and have a palace and 7 women. How materialistic and ridiculous is that statement? That is true. Some, they believe that. I don't know what sect of religion it is. But I believe in a creator, because if you have a look at all the creepy crawlers on the earth, they have a reproduction system that does not come from the Big Bang and the atomic reaction where the world was formed. It's a miracle in itself, and I still can't get to grips with it. Now, in the old days, like thousands of years ago, people didn't have the mentality of explaining something that was far out. The only way they could describe a spaceship in the sky was, you might have seen the pictures, was chariots in the sky going across the sun. Yeah, that was their interpretation of what they saw. There's actually, in India, a metal block. It's not from this earth.
I've seen that, the metal block, And on the plains of Nazca, there's drawings of aliens, aren't there, with the helmets on? And they say they used to narrow their heads with the bindings to mimic the aliens that came down to the South American plains of Nazca.
Well, that's history, and that is... I'm not beyond the possibility of anything, but give me some solid evidence. Now, as I said to a lady on the phone, this turning water into wine... My wife, she passed away 8 years ago. She was very, not religious, but she was very, you know, on the ball about life. And this actual discussion come up about water into wine. And she worked in London, and she was drinking water in the office one day, hot day or something, and suddenly she got this spiritual feeling in her body. I can't explain it, Ash, and you have a
And she said the water had turned into wine, and that's why she was a bit drunk. Is that what you...
No.
That was her excuse.
No, she didn't drink. What it was it's that if I tell a joke and it's funny, you'll laugh. If you drink beer or wine, you'll get tipsy. But you can actually be influenced in the mind by someone or something. I can't explain it, and I can't make any excuses. But she came over with this feeling of aura and spiritually from drinking water. Now, I'm not going to answer that. I'm not a doctor. Now, as far as Jesus walking on the waves or walking on water, you know, there's parts of the world where there's sandbanks a couple of 100 yards out that leave about 2 foot of water.
I've seen someone do it on the Thames. What was his name? That guy, that magician. He
yeah,
did it. What was his
Dynamo.
name? Dynamo. Yeah, he did it.
Yeah. Now,
if he did that 2,000 years ago, they'd all be going on. He's Jesus, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but the law of physics determine that you will never be able to walk on water. You know that.
I know that.
You need Brian Cox on telly with
Brian Cox. If anyone could do it, he could. Anyway, look, we've got to go, Jeff, because we've got to go to a little ad break. But after the break, we're going to zip through the calls. We've also got the British Bob Dylan and Graham in Northolt, so make sure you stay tuned. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is...
Asher, have I ever... Oh, here we go. Come on. Oh, no.
Left a bit.
No, left
right
a bit. Left a bit, right a bit. Right a bit. Oh, here we go.
Hey. It's like Star Trek when the ship's going all bad and they all did that.
Okay, this is great radio, isn't
Warp
it?
speed.
Right.
Yeah, if you listen on the radio, you won't get any of this. Anyway.
Asher, have I ever told you about the fact that I went to St Edward's College, which was the school associated with the Liverpool Catholic Cathedral?
No, you've never told me that story. Intriguing, that is.
That I was a Catholic altar boy for many years and hold the bronze and silver medal in the Guild of St Stephen. Have I ever mentioned that? No.
How did you get that?
Might become relevant in the
We'll talk about that.
Might become relevant in the fullness of time. Oh, sorry. My mum was a Catholic minister, and in fact, my brother went to the Catholic Hall at Oxford University and was a chorister in the cathedral choir. And my other brother was an altar boy as well. Did I mention any of that?
No, but we should go through all of it.
Did I mention that was my dad was the first non-Catholic to be asked by a Catholic bishop to have his feet washed at the annual ceremony?
You need to tell Ken all about this.
Oh, all right, let's go. What are you doing? Are you going to go do the...
Do you watch it? I'll leave it to you.
Let's go with Ronnie. Sorry.
Kent.
All right.
All right, Ronnie.
Right, so all I was going to say, many moons ago, I worked on the Big Breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and there was Craig and Jane Hamilton Parker, and blimey, they freaked me out. So my dad died, I think, when I was 19. So it was my first job as a runner on the Big Breakfast.
Yeah.
People must have been pretty jealous.
Was it Chris Evans and Gabby Rosalind?
Yeah. And Paula. I got all
Paulie Yates.
because I could spill, right? So anyway, so these guys came in, and now my dad had died when I was 19, and it was about 20, and they came in. And in those days you could have a fag, right?
Yeah, good old days.
And they said, whose dad's drunk? And my dad was an alcoholic, and he said, he's standing behind you, and my dad had gold fittings. Now, listen, I don't believe in any of that old rubbish, right?
Yeah.
And then they said, my dad loved to fry up, go in and but he said...
Everyone likes to fry up,
freaked me out. Yeah, everyone likes to fry up. And then me and my sister were driving, and how did he know? And he went, your sister needs to get her eyes tested. And I was with my sister. Then he described my bedroom, and I've got horses, and he described everything. Now, it's a bit weird, isn't it?
Why didn't you just say your dad's name and gone, your dad was called this? You know what I mean? They're not very specific,
The problem is, sorry, just to dovetail on from what Asher said, I believe that it's cold reading, and I'll tell you why. Because what happens is you get a tendency with somebody, they go, your grandmother's here and she's telling you that she had 3 sisters, and you think, well, so what? I mean, she's not telling you anything of any value. It's always and the number 5's important. Oh yeah, there's 5 in my family.
Did he give you any real specifics?
Right, can I say something quickly, right?
Yeah, go on,
Before Facebook, before he can... So, there was... He said there's a red bike with a flat tyre in the shed. And so we live very rural, right? And there was a red bike.
Everyone's got a red bike with a flat tyre in the shed. I mean, why would you pick up on something like that? Why wouldn't he pick up on something real?
I mean, why not, as an example, say, next week's lottery numbers are...
Because then everyone would win, and you wouldn't really get a good prize. You wouldn't get a good prize.
I don't believe in it. But how did he know there was a red bike?
What they do is, so I can't do cold reading, but. And I'll tell you a Barnum statement as well. So cold reading is something where you go, I'm getting Chris or Christopher, Christine, Carol, and they go, oh yeah, Carol, and then the next thing they do is they say, so the audience confirms, they go, Carol was my sister, your sister, okay, we've got your sister. The next thing is a Barnum statement, which sounds specific but applies to